UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and a good evening to you. It is Petrie here with you for the next 3 hours, and I'm going to be doing the phone-in at midnight, of course, and that is your chance to talk back. So I want you to tell me what you think of these cuts to the PIP programme. Now, we did talk about the potential of these cuts coming, what they might look like. We talked about this last week, but now we know exactly what is going to be happening, and more than 1 million Brits face losing thousands of pounds in these payments as Liz Kendall goes ahead with these cuts. 5 billion from a failing system. 1 billion she's going to plough back into the system, so she's going to save 4 billion in total. So we're going to have a look at the deep dive into the eligibility, the fact that if you're already on PIP, you're not safe, you're going to be reassessed. The reassessment protocol is going to be much tougher. Anybody who's terminal or is never going to get better won't have to go through assessments anymore. So there is quite a lot to chew through. If you've not heard all the details, there's quite a lot to go through on this. But if you are on PIP, you are going to want to listen to this. I've got all the details. I've got the government details. I've got the Roundtree Foundation details and everything that you'll need to know. So if you are on a PIP or you know somebody who's on a PIP, this is the programme for you. And I would love to hear from you about what impact this is going to have on your life. Some people stand to lose thousands, I'm talking 6, 7, 8,000 pounds a year under these new rules. So it could be 1 million of you. So do give me a call. I'd love to talk to you about this. 0344 499 1000. So that is coming up later, but I suspect it's going to be busy. So if you want to talk to me about this, you want to tell me your story, you want to try and figure out what's going to happen to you, then do give me a call. There's something wrong with my microphone. We might have to give me a new microphone. It's behaving very badly. Very badly. Anyway, that is to come at midnight. Right, before that, I'm so excited about this. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm going to be introducing you to a new paper reviewer. His name is Cody Darla. He's a comedy writer and podcaster, and I found him on TikTok, and what he does on TikTok is just very, very funny. So I thought he would be a really good choice for us to do with the paper review. Johnny Hearn will be here telling us about some films that he's been through. We're going to be heading off to find out what's happened to these astronauts that have just splashed down in water. I'm just looking at pictures now, and there's now a boat at the capsule, and they're now going to, they've put a rope around it, or something around it to prevent it from floating off, and then they will unlock the door. There's somebody climbing up the side right now, to have a look in the windows and to unlock the door. Of course, these astronauts have been up there for 9 months, so it's unknown. Nobody's spent that long in space. It's unknown what physical condition they will be in, so we can expect them to be whisked straight away to medics to be checked and potentially to be in a hospital. That's standard. That is standard practice. So there's a boat pulling around now to the side of the capsule where the door is. So I'll bring you more on that as it happens. Sandro Minetti will also be with us to talk us through some Hollywood stuff as well. So it's a really, really busy show coming up. We're going to speak to Andy Lound as well a little bit later about that capsule landing back on Earth. They must be absolutely thrilled to be home. Before that, though, of course, today was a big day. At least it was for Trump and for Putin, who allegedly had an hour-and-a-half phone call about what they were going to do about the ceasefire, not the peace, the ceasefire on Ukraine and Russia's border. It's been reported that a franc exchange, that normally means that's code for a bit frosty, franc exchange happened. The Russian president agreed to halt strikes on Ukrainian energy infrastructure, but not to cease the war completely. The suspicion is, of course, he's going to use the ceasefire to push forward from where he is, removing 60,000 troops, roughly, that have been in the Kursk region fighting the incursion there by Ukraine, which sadly looks like they're going to lose, so that particular piece of land. So he wants to push forward further so that when it comes to negotiating how much land he's going to be rewarded with from this ceasefire deal or even an entire peace deal, that he'll have more land to bargain with. So the idea is, the suspicion is, from everybody that I've spoken to in defence, is he's going to move those 60,000 troops to the front lines in the east and the south and then start to push forward from there. He also wants there to be no intelligence shared with Ukraine or any weapons. So I want to know what Ukraine feels about this. We've had one or two statements from Zelensky, which have been very polite and very diplomatic, but that's not enough. I want to know how Ukraine feels. So to that end, Andrei Ozdachuk joins me now, who's a member of parliament in Ukraine. Andrei, thank you so much for joining me again. I really appreciate your time. I know it's late in Ukraine. First of all, your overview of this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. We were tracing, not conversation because nobody heard conversation. We saw reports from both sides. And I think you mentioned that both reports, one from White House and one from Kremlin, very much different. And you also mentioned that Trump didn't appear in front of media, which he likes a lot, meaning that there was nothing a lot to tell to media, meaning that, in fact, there was no agreement on anything. They agreed to continue negotiations. And as a bottom line, we may see that Putin said no to Trump, despite all the rhetorics from the White House during last almost 8 months. I think you remember, since Ukrainian-US negotiations in Saudi Arabia, which happened on March 11th, United States was extremely satisfied, and Ukraine was extremely satisfied with the results of that negotiations. And State Secretary Rubio and other top officials were saying that now is the ball on Russian side, and now it's the time to see if Russia is ready for the peace. But in reality, we see that Putin said no. But the real reality that when I'm talking to you right now is quite heavy air defense battle in Kiev with quite heavy explosions, meaning that Russia continue to attack big Ukrainian cities every night. It is happening non-stop for many, many, many months. So they are attacking us with kamikaze drones. And to remind you, each Russian kamikaze drones is from 60 to 80 kilograms of explosive materials, and drones like that can destroy a private house easily. So that's how the peace looks like today.
Andrei, we know that Putin likes to play games. This is a very, very dangerous one, because he seems to have convinced Donald Trump that he wants peace, and he seems to have convinced Donald Trump that he is keen on it eventually. But as I was just saying, I've been speaking to quite a few military contacts this afternoon, and they've been suggesting that actually what this will mean is a redeployment of troops in the Kursk region into places where he can really 60,000 men to push forward so that he can grab more land and stop Ukraine from actually hitting back at the fuel and oil and all of those pieces of infrastructure. Would that be what your assessment would be?
Look, first of all, I don't think that Putin convinced Trump on something. Trump is playing very accurate diplomatic game, which is very difficult for him because, in fact, he is not reaching his objectives. But the objectives of Vladimir Putin is very, very clear to us. For the last couple of days, he was repeating absolutely the same messages as he was saying a month, a year, 3 years ago, The only difference that these messages were repacked on the manner which is more favorable for Trump's ears. But in fact, everything is the same. And demands of Putin to stop mobilization in Ukraine, to stop military support of Ukraine, and so on and so forth, it is the same. He wants Ukrainian surrender, the same as he was targeted on February 24, 2022. We all need to remember that the original plan was to destroy Ukraine. But after more than 3 years, Ukraine is still alive, and not just alive. Putin can do nothing with us, nothing at all. He lost almost 800,000 people killed and injured in Ukraine. He lost not less than 60-70% of all Soviet military warehouses, which was the main military power of Russian Federation. And after all these losses, definitely he's trying to push harder and harder because he sees the weaknesses of the West. Unfortunately, for the last 3 years, there were a lot of discussions and statements from Western leaders rather than actions. And now when we see all these attempts from Trump, which we very much respect and we wish success, but unfortunately we see that the Trump administration doesn't look very strong. Let's put it like that. And in fact, absence of any agreement today is simply saying that Putin is winning this round of political game. Unfortunately,
sorry, I was just going to say it's going to be interesting to see how this is framed by Donald Trump, because as you say, again, a lot of the things that I've been reading are saying this is proof that Trump does not have the power with Putin that he thought he had, that this is, as you've been saying, this is not really an agreement, this is nothing very much, and Trump doesn't like to lose.
Absolutely, and I don't want to see American president being weak. I don't want to see American president to lose, because if Trump will lose, Ukraine will lose, Europe will lose, and United Kingdom will lose. Everyone will lose. Unfortunately, we at the moment are hostages of charisma of Donald Trump, who raised the bar very high, and definitely we wish him success. But for the moment, we don't see any material progress, for one simple reason, that Trump decided to demonstrate his power against Ukraine, making pressure on us. He is very aggressive against, I don't know, Canada or Mexico, but he doesn't look to be very aggressive against Putin. It's understood that it is a strategy. But as more we observe this strategy, as more we have doubts that this strategy will bring to any successful results, as for Trump, as for all others.
There is a saying in England, in Britain, that in negotiations, in any negotiation, you have to be at the table. And if you're not at the table, you are on the menu. I don't know if that resonates with you. Do you believe that in these discussions that you are not part of, that Ukraine is on the menu?
Well, we are definitely not menu, especially for Vladimir Putin. Yes, someone may think that the war is happening between Ukraine and United States because we are negotiating, or between United States and Russia because they are negotiating. But in reality, without Ukraine, it's impossible to reach any agreement. Ukrainian parliament, despite all our political differences, will not follow somebody's decisions, which is not in line with our understanding of just peace and our understanding of the price which was paid by the people of Ukraine during all these terrible 3 years. So that's why we also understand that the Trump administration, in fact, is conducting mediation. That's typical legal mediation, which you may see in any court disputes or corporate conflicts and things like that. So, but definitely this mediation shall come to some moment when we will see and we will understand on what real conditions Russians are ready. For the moment, we don't know. And Vladimir Zelensky, a couple of hours ago, correctly said that, unfortunately, we're not aware about details. So you know the devil in details, and for the moment, we're not even aware about details of Putin-Trump negotiations during this day. So hopefully it will be changed during this night. Hopefully tomorrow morning we will know more. But in the end of the day, it will be only for Ukraine, for Ukrainian parliament and Ukrainian people to decide what conditions are acceptable for us. But we will never ever agree on any surrender. We will never ever agree that Putin will decide about Ukrainian future. And we want to repeat to Trump and to all of our allies in Europe and especially in NATO that it is wrong that Moscow is taking decision about the future of NATO, but not Brussels. So that's why we shall be very calm, we shall be very diplomatic, but we shall be very strong. And now it's really the time of unity, especially in Europe and between Europe and the United States. Unfortunately, we are too much linked one to another, and Europe cannot act without coordination of the United States and vice versa. Trump cannot win this political battle or diplomatic battle without involvement of European Union and United Kingdom. Hopefully they will understand that, and all upcoming rounds of negotiations and talks will have a different format.
Again, some of the suggestions today, Andrei, was that Russia would permanently get Crimea and it would be recognised as Russian land. Is that a red line for Ukraine? Because if it is internationally recognised as Russian, then Putin has won that.
So first of all, the United States of America does not represent the world. So that's why even if they do something, it is not internationally recognized. But the red line for Ukraine is international law. That's the red line for us, and hopefully for our European partners and for partners in United Kingdom. Secondly, I want to remind that in 2018, during the first Trump administration adopted so-called Crimea-Pompeo Declaration, which is very hard, very strict, and very tough document, which says that the United States of America will never, ever recognize Crimea as a territory of Russian Federation. Again, it was done during Trump administration, not Obama or Biden. So that's why I think that all this discussion about possible recognition of Crimea by United States is just a fake news.
Do you envisage a day, though, that Russia relinquishes its hold on Crimea?
Sorry, say again?
Do you envisage a day where Russia hands Crimea back to Ukraine?
Look, it's not, I'm an optimist or very lyrical person, but I see the weaknesses of Russia. I'm quite adult boy, and I remember well 1990, beginning of 1991, when no one on the West, no one in the United States, no one in UK or Europe ever believes that Soviet Union may collapse. But Soviet Union collapsed in less than 6 months. At the moment, we see more or less the same picture with Russian Federation. The only difference that they still can receive a lot of dollars selling their oil, mostly to China and India or to the global South. And they are doing this only because of permission of the West, because sanctions was never ever enough to stop all this money, which in fact is using to finance the war. But even with all other issues regarding economy, regarding social sphere, and all other things, Russian Federation is extremely weak. And all this fight of Kremlin is a personal paranoia of Vladimir Putin and his small team around him. They don't want money. They're billionaires. They have hundreds of billions in their pockets. They have everything. But they want to satisfy their imperialistic dreams. And don't forget that they're cruel FSB officers. They want to humiliate everyone around. And what I want Trump administration to understand, that even today's dialogue with Putin was also an attempt of Putin to humiliate Trump, especially when he offered him a hockey games with between Russian and American hockey players. That's humiliation. So that's why, again, Putin will not stop as long as he is alive. He will not stop as long as he has money. And it's our joint target, at least to stop him making money, which he used to finance the war. It's possible. It's realistic. And I will finish with quoting Donald Trump. He was promising drill, baby, drill, you remember? And the idea was to dramatically decrease the retail oil price. I want to see that, because the dramatic decrease of oil price will definitely influence on appetites of Vladimir Putin to see Ukraine on menu.
Let's end on a positive, if we can, and that is, at least tomorrow, it is believed that there will be a prisoner exchange. There will be soldiers who are exchanged, 175 on each side, I understand, and at least 23 severely injured Ukrainian soldiers will be returned. It may not be enough, but it's something, right?
So first of all, I want everyone to understand that any prisoners exchange, it's a very, very good news. Thousands and thousands of Ukrainians are suffering in Ukraine in Russian prisons, thousands. They kept just for fun by Russian Federation. And I think the best signs, if they want a peace, would be if they will release all these people. But they're not doing this. Secondly, it's not the first exchange, and it's not just because Trump was talking to Putin. All prisoners exchange is very complex exercise, which is preparing during months and months. And during 3 years of war, thanks God and thanks for efforts of Ukrainian special services, we've already done, I think, dozens of prisoners exchange. But if the American side want to present this as a positive result of a phone call between Trump and Putin, we're happy with this, because we're ready to pay a lot just to have our people back.
It's been brilliant, as ever, to talk to you. And thank you again for staying up. And I hope that we can talk again sometime. Andrei Ozachuk, the member of the Parliament in Ukraine. Quick break, back in a second.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, good evening to you. Just to let you know about the capsule, it's called the Dragon Freedom is the capsule, and it has now been lifted onto a recovery vessel. The door is still closed. It would appear that they are still on board, the two astronauts, Butch and Sunny. They are still on board, but we are still, I'm just watching it being lifted straight onto the back of a vessel now. And they're being very, very cautious because of the physical state, perhaps, of these astronauts. They're being very, very gentle with it. And I'll keep you up to date with what's happening as and when it happens. I've got sort of a live-ish feed here showing me what's going on. So that's the very latest. So let's get the latest now from LA with Sandro Manetti, a journalist, author and producer. Sandro, I haven't spoken to you for ages. They're home. They're home.
From astronauts to an out-of-this-world US report. Yeah. Lovely to be back with you again, Petrie.
There you go. Talk to me about Rory McIlroy.
So, the new movie coming out this summer that I'm most looking forward to is Happy Gilmore 2, starring Adam Sandler. And what a long time it's been since the first one, 29 years. This is something of a trend in Hollywood. A few months ago, we got Gladiator 2, 24 years after the original. And now Adam Sandler is picking up his golf clubs again. And it's going exclusively to Netflix. And there's a reason for this. It is because one of the most successful shows on Netflix is Full Swing, which is a documentary series about the professional golf tour, in which Rory McIlroy is a key character. And so how about this? So Rory McIlroy is actually in the movie. The trailer just dropped today. He's in it along with Bryson DeChambeau and a bunch of other top golfers. And so, yes, Netflix is melding two of its greatest stars here, Adam Sandler and Rory McIlroy, together at last. It's the movie team we never knew we wanted, but we're going to get it this summer.
Never knew we needed that, but it is coming. Talking of sport, the former Tottenham's Mauricio Pochettino, is that the right name?
Mauricio Pochettino, the former
Pochettino.
manager of
He's been manager of the US national team, but he still doesn't have a green card. So could Ice Baby be popping over to him at any moment?
Well, he was a bit worried. He was in the immigration centre the other day. He was in the queue for an hour and a half. But he's recently been over in England doing training with the US squad, because a lot of the US players are based in Europe, of course. So he's been having a training camp. So no, I don't think he's in danger of deportation, especially as USA is co-hosting the next World Cup. They've paid big money to get a top coach in him. But yeah, no one thought to rush through the immigration papers. But we're still just over a year away from the World Cup. So hopefully, it'll all be legal. And if they don't win it, and the answer again, let's face it, maybe he'll be deported.
Just get him deported. Yeah, it'd be easy then. You just go, oh, sorry, you haven't got a green card. Off you go. That's one way of getting out of the contract.
No new contract for you.
Yeah. Talking of US immigration, of course, Prince Harry's due to be released. Did he lie? Does anybody care?
We still don't know, because the immigration papers have now been released. After a political think tank requested a sort of freedom of public information, saying it was in the public interest to see whether Prince Harry lied in his green card application. When you are asked, have you ever done any illegal drugs? Now, we know in his book, Spare, he admitted to taking cocaine and other illegal drugs. And if he lied about that in his green card application, he'd be in a much worse situation than Mauricio Pochettino is. So the papers have just been released, but they are more redacted than the original JFK assassination files, because there's so much black ink in there. It's hard to know what the correct situation is. But a US government official says that he hasn't had preferential treatment and everything looks above board. So, yeah, the mystery continues. But for now, at least, Harry gets to stay.
I thought that Trump said he was going to leave him alone because he had enough problems being married to Meghan Markle. That's what he said.
Yeah, that was quite a memorable quote, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But, so I don't think Harry is in any direct danger. One, because the papers are super redacted, and two, because Trump's not in the mood to have that particular battle.
No, not. He's got enough going on, I think, at the moment. Talking of these JFK papers, around 80,000 pieces of paper, I understand. Is it really going to have much on it? I mean, whose job is it to read through all of that? I'm glad it's not mine. I used to have to read defence white papers, and that was enough for me. But 80,000 pages.
Well, US government lawyers have been looking through them for the last few days, just so they're ready for anything, that hits the press, and assassination scholars, of which I am one, by the way. I am totally fascinated with the JFK assassination. In my life, I've met 3 people who claimed to have pulled the trigger on that day. I didn't particularly believe it.
Yeah.
You did.
4 now.
Okay. You as well.
I don't even think I was born then.
No, according to the experts, this is pretty underwhelming. There is no smoking gun. The papers still continue to point to Lee Harvey Oswald as a lone gunman, which few people believe, apart from the Warren Commission. So, this is not the big revelation we were hoping for. So,
but it's not all of the papers, though, is it? Is this all of them in full?
It's the last batch to be publicly released, which is not quite the same thing, so it means there's probably some in a secret file somewhere. But if these are underwhelming, I say, Petrie, release the alien files next week. Let's see about the UFOs, because if I became president, and so it'd be the same with you as well, I'm sure, it'd be question 1, where's the aliens? Question 2, who killed JFK? So, we're halfway there towards the 2.
No. My first question would be, where's all my money and brown envelopes and cash? Very similar, actually, I think, to the... Anyway, Colin Farrell. Let's have a look at him. We love Colin Farrell. He's in talks to star in a movie as the World War II comic book hero I've never heard of, Sergeant Rock, in a role linked in the past with Schwarzenegger, Willis and Daniel Craig. How come I don't know about it?
Because if you'd grown up in the United States, your comic book heroes were not just Superman and Batman. They were also Sergeant Rock, who was the star of all the war comics over here. He was a fictional character who served in Easy Company over in Europe, battling Nazis. Not exactly a superhero, but did have superhuman strength, was a crack shot, was able to throw a hand grenade with deadly accuracy. And for decades now, Hollywood has been trying to make a movie version of Sergeant Rock. Now, Arnold Schwarzenegger, at the height of his action hero fame, was very keen on playing this role, couldn't make it happen. Bruce Willis, again, they couldn't get it done. Up until a few weeks ago, it seemed that this might be a role for Daniel Craig. But now they're about to close the deal to play America's ultimate hero, Island's own Colin Farrell.
Listen, why not? Colin Farrell is brilliant in everything that he does. So I'm really pleased. I'll keep an eye out for that. Sandro, thank you. Thank you so much. We got to go now and wait for our astronauts to be released from the capsule. But thank you so much for joining me this evening. Sandro Benetti, journalist, author and producer. We'll see you soon. I'm just looking at images now. It looks like they're beginning to open the doors. So we'll be back in just a moment with... Oh, there's a ladder being moved. Yeah, we'll be back in a moment with more information on this.
the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, you're with Talk at the moment. I do apologise to those of you who are watching me. I am looking up at the screens around the studio here, and we've just seen the hatch. There you go, you can see it now if you're watching, but let me explain for those who are listening on radio. The hatch has been opened on the Dragon Freedom, the capsule that the astronauts Butch and Sunny have just landed in, just off the Florida coast actually. And there's a crew working extremely hard going into the capsule. We've just seen one person go into the capsule now, and they will be moving some of the protective equipment that's around them. They will be removing some of the footrests and all of those, the clunky bits that are surrounding the astronauts, to give them a really easy way out of the chamber. They also, I've just learned that they use a slide to get the astronauts out, and that is, of course, I suspect because of the pressure on, you know, walking up and down steps will be too much for them. We don't know their physical condition because they've been up in space for 9 long months. Because their original vehicle that was meant to bring them back wasn't fit for purpose. The one that took them up had to leave because it wasn't fit for purpose to bring them back down. So this is the stranded astronauts now. There's a crew working extremely hard here, like I said, removing all of the bits and pieces that surround the astronauts. They'll take their helmets off for them. They will make sure that they're unclipped because they may not be able to unclip themselves. They'll remove all of the stuff that's around them for safety, and then they will be able to slide out of the capsule. Coming down a slide, there'll be crew obviously at the bottom of the slide to help them stand. There's somebody in there at the moment to help them stand because they've been 9 months without gravity. So there's been, you know, although they do physical exercises in space, there's I don't think there's any precedent to what effect 9 months of no gravity has on the human body. They do try to do some exercises, of course. They do try to keep their muscle tone up, but this has been 9 long months, and it's really unknown as to just how much that will have affected their physicality. They're waiting now for the crew to egress from the pod, from the capsule. I think it's going to be Butch first, is my understanding, and the first fresh air since June last year. There's the first fresh air, and I'm sure that is going to be very, very welcome. There is some commentary as well with this, so why don't I hand over to the experts at this point.
Commander Nick Hague, following splashdown, that there were four smiles as far as he could see.
Yeah, capsule full of grins. Now, generally speaking,
and there we do see Crew 9, some happy waves, smiles all around back on Earth.
So those images there, Butch was second to the left in those images that you've just seen there.
Generally speaking, we have the individuals in the 2 center seats of the spacecraft exit first. You might hear us refer to this as the exit process as egress. It's just another term for exiting the spacecraft. Generally speaking, we most of the time have the 2 center seats egress first, as it makes moving around inside the capsule a little bit easier.
So the 2 center seats are, my understanding are Butch and Sunny.
We can see the tablets that were previously located on the upper leg of the crew members. We can see those being handed out to the recovery team. Those were taken off prior to the entry phase, to spacecraft reentry. Those had to be stored and secured prior to dynamic operations.
And it looks like we are starting to see the footrests also be removed. I just saw one there on the screen. There are 4, of course, 1 for each crew member.
Those footrests are made out of carbon fiber and are actually sized appropriately for each crew member, as everybody has different measurements and different leg lengths. Same goes for the armrests and the bucket length of each seat. We size those appropriately for the crew members and to ensure their comfort and safety. I believe we just saw the little ramp that is used to help slide the crew members out from inside the spacecraft.
And once the crew does exit Dragon Freedom, they will be placed on to a stretcher to go to a medical bay for medical checkouts. This is standard procedure for all Dragon spacecraft flights that splash down crewed, as well as for our Soyuz spacecraft that land in Kazakhstan.
We could see the exterior of Dragon Freedom quite clearly in this shot, and it's such a beautiful sight. I personally prefer the capsule when it has some of that charring from atmospheric reentry. It is the signature sign of a capsule that has returned to Earth.
Continuing to stand by for our first crew member to egress or exit Crew Dragon Freedom following their splashdown at 2:57 p.m. Pacific time. Dragon undocked from the International Space Station at 10:05 p.m. Pacific just yesterday, so it was about 17 hours of phasing. And while on board the International Space Station, Crew 9 contributed to 900 hours of science, over 150 research experiments and investigations, making great use of the microgravity lab of the International Space Station, which celebrates 25 years of continuous human presence this November.
Looks like we're about to get our first crew member here upon egress of the Dragon spacecraft.
So we are standing by for that egress. Outside of Dragon, you do see one of those stretchers. This is the expected procedure, as the crew will be taken to medical facilities following their exit from Dragon.
We can see folks on board clapping as our first crew member.
And that is NASA astronaut Nick Hague, commander of Crew 9, now out of Crew Dragon Freedom. Some smiles, thumbs up, and a wave. Can't get any better than that.
Yeah, that is one happy camper, that's for sure. As we said before, it is standard procedure for all of our long-duration crew members to receive assistance upon egressing from the spacecraft. We basically help them move off of the recovery deck and into the private medical quarters for their initial consultation with the SpaceX flight surgeon. So we'll see that take place for all 4 of our crew members today.
And we are standing by for the next crew member to exit Freedom. Next up out of the capsule, we expect Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov's first space flight. Spent 171 days in space alongside NASA astronaut Nick Hague.
Looks like we're getting some cheers and clapping on board as Alexander is slid down the little ramp and placed into the mobility aid. Once again, big smile.
Incredible picture.
Now, the 2 crew members remaining in Dragon are NASA astronauts Sunny Williams and Butch Wilmore. They completed 286 days in space.
One of the remaining footrests being removed from the Dragon spacecraft. As I said before, we generally try to have the crew members that are located in the 2 center seats aboard Dragon, and we like to have them egress first if possible, as it creates a little bit more movable working room inside the spacecraft. There is a recovery crew member inside that is helping all of our Crew 9 crew egress or exit from the spacecraft.
We are standing by for the next crew member to egress or exit Crew Dragon Freedom following the splashdown not even an hour ago at 2:57 p.m. Pacific time. Really have the recovery operations down pretty quick at this point.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible to think that, you know, just 5 years ago when we were doing the initial demonstration missions of the Dragon for Crew Dragon, that now we're under about 30 minutes for, to retrieve the spacecraft from the water, and just several minutes here while it's been on board, and to get everyone, really to get that side hatch open.
That's Sunny coming out now. 9 months. 9 months. She looks absolutely thrilled.
For those of you that have just recently joined, the Dragon had an on-time splashdown. Looks like we're getting our next crew member here. That is none other than Sunny Williams. Big smile, big waves. She, like her other crew members, now will be assisted onto the mobility aid.
There we have it, some waves, some thumbs up, and some smiles.
Definitely seems to be a theme among all recovery operations.
Absolutely. And of course, that leaves NASA astronaut Butch Wilmore inside Dragon in seat 4. We're getting some views of him now as he egresses or exits the spacecraft.
Once again, some elation and cheers there from Butch Wilmore. As we mentioned before, returning to Earth from coming from a microgravity environment can wreak havoc on the body. So it is customary and just standard procedure for all of our long-term space residents to get assistance once they are back on board the recovery vessel.
Well, now that Nick, Butch, Sunny, and Alexander are safely back home on Earth and getting checked out by the NASA medical team, we're going to wrap up our live coverage of their return. The Crew 9 mission began a little differently.
So there you go. That just put a biggest smile on my face. That was an absolutely extraordinary thing to witness, and I'm really happy that I was able to share that with you. So the two, there's 4 of them obviously that came back, but the 2 that we were the most interested in were Butch and Sunny, and they've returned to Earth after 9 months in space. It's not the longest time that somebody's been in space. That was somebody who was up there for 437 days instead of the 286 that they were up. But this is still going to be a very significant learning moment for NASA and for the space program, because they need to know what kind of effect this has, not just on the male body but also on the female body, and the speed of the recovery. We saw them there all being placed into sort of stretchers to be taken away. That is standard practice. That happens with everybody because they're a little bit wobbly when they come, I suppose, just going through, you know, dropping from that height. They're going to be a little bit wobbly, so that's why they're always, no matter what, just placed onto those gurneys and then taken away to be checked out. Of course, Sunny and Butch, not spring chickens. You know, Butch is 62 years old. I think Sunny had her birthday up there, didn't she? 59 years old. So this is a real, you know, this is good for the slightly older people in the world that they've done that. 9 months. They must have. They did a lot of work up there, but goodness me, you can imagine, can't you? Just not seeing each other's faces for a few days will be bliss. How they've managed to stay calm, I just don't know. I think that it takes a special kind of human being that can be trapped in a spaceship for that long, or in a space station for that long, and not completely lose their cool. Quite extraordinary. We'll be talking to Andy Lowndes about this a little bit later on. We should have more information then. But absolutely extraordinary pictures of those 2 incredible human beings that are now back on Earth.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk. Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, it is Petrie here with you, and I'm so excited. I'm just a bit overexcited and a little bit starstruck because I have who I think is an extremely funny guy in a peculiar way in the studio with me, called Cody Darla, who's a comedy writer and a podcaster, and I found you on TikTok.
You did, yeah. There'll be people listening who understand you're starstruck.
Yeah.
Being like, who the hell is this guy?
Who the hell is this guy? Well, I have an example of why it is I fell so madly in love with you. Here is just one of the they are brilliant, let me tell you. You can find him on TikTok. Are you on Instagram as well and stuff like that? I am on
Instagram, yeah.
Mr. Cody Darla. I just went, yeah, this is different, this is brilliant, this is weird. Let's have a listen or a look, if you're watching, to Cody Darla.
Elon, you naughty boy! What do you mean, what have you done? Now you're just winding me up.
The chainsaw for bureaucracy! Chainsaw!
Hi, listen, you have to believe me. I have no idea where he got that chainsaw from. Of course I've taken it off of him. Do you think I'm an idiot? Mark, Jeff, please stop crying, okay? Mark, baby, we'll try and get a tourniquet on your arm, okay? Just give me 1 second. I'm trying to sort it out. They are absolutely traumatised, those two. Just really don't know what to do. Elon, for God's sake, stop it! He's just sat in the corner making chainsaw noises and saying like, I am the chainsaw man. I am the chainsaw man. Vroom, 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 vroom. Listen, I had exactly the same thought, but Jeff has promised me that the chainsaw did not come from Amazon. And honestly, I'm looking at him now. He is screaming at the top of his lungs. He's so scared, and I've had to change his pants 3 times. He's literally shit himself. The boy is terrified, okay? He's telling the truth. He's the definition of a problem child. Mark, baby, don't go near Elon. Don't go near Elon. Elon, stop growling. Mark, sweetheart, come hold my leg. Hold my leg. Stay away from him. I just think the 3 of them are too hard to handle with one. Oh my God, where's Elon? Oh my God. Jesus Christ, he was trying to beat Jeff to death with a lawnmower.
God, it's a long time a minute, isn't it, when you're staring at your face?
No, but that's because of you, yeah, because you don't want to see it yourself. But they're extremely funny. But what made you come up with this idea of being the babysitter? Because you have various characters there, but this is by far my favourite.
Yes, well, I think it's by far the most successful, actually. I don't know, really. It was... this isn't a humble brag. I run. And I run and normally listen to some sort of politics podcast, and I'm kind of constantly trying to think about some sort of like comedy character, and it kind of I think it's like most creative things, your mind goes completely blank, and then suddenly some alchemy in your mind just sort of it's like two magnets, and then you kind of just have the idea. So it didn't develop. But the beauty of like social media is that you can come up with something like that, and it was this kind of, well, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, I think it was like just before the inauguration, they behave like children.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of, it's not much of a leap to be like, what if they had a babysitter? And like I say, because it's social media, you can just do a video, and if it doesn't do well, as long as you think the idea is kind of sound, you can just sort of try and get until you get the thing right.
I love them, and I also will have a look at some of the comments, because the people that reply to you or message you are equally funny, right? They're funny people.
Yeah, there's some great comments.
There's some great comments. My favourite, I think, was somebody says, "Do you think Mark's secretly happy that he's your favourite?"
People really get into it. People, they're often like, I can imagine them in the room, and I do. It is something I'm aware of, where I kind of. Mark Zuckerberg is kind of has evolved as my favourite. I mean, it's not, all
He's
views
not.
expressed by this babysitter are not mine. But yeah, and occasionally people there was one comment the other week where someone was like, well, hang on, if this babysitter's looking after Elon Musk, then that must mean he's a Republican. And these people were having a proper conversation about the fact that this babysitter's a Republican and they shouldn't find him funny. And I in the end, I just commented and said he's a civil servant position. But
I absolutely love it. It's so funny, especially how naughty Elon Musk is. And it's just a bit of light relief from all the horrors that are sort of going on over there. But you had J.D. Vance at one point as well, you were babysitting.
That was a small foray, when after he kind of torpedoed the chat with Zelensky in the White House. It was kind of...
that was about him interrupting all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So it was kind of... I mean, I guess, depending on how close you are to the lore of this character, it might be a different character, because people also in the comments of the videos are saying, well, JD can't actually be in the Billionaire Babysitter Club because he's not a billionaire. So actually, it could be a different babysitter looking after JD Vance.
I still like it. I like the idea of Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, because I just want to say, honestly, thank you for making
you're so
me smile.
kind. Thank
honestly,
you so much.
because I just found it was very refreshing to see this new take on comedy, and to just have that giggle and looking at these potentially revolting human beings.
Well, this is maybe going to be
children.
Yeah, I'm going to look back at this moment and think, what did I start? Because I am really humanising them, and I do think that they are monsters.
They are monsters, but it's absolutely brilliant. So thank you. Like I said, you can find... You've got a podcast as well, haven't you?
I do, yes.
So tell me the details of that.
Yes, so my podcast is called The Truth in My Opinion, which was actually based on a comment on a TikTok video I did where someone was having this big argument, and they just said, well, actually, that is the truth, in my opinion. So it's a 5-minute podcast that I just kind of... I take the mick out of the news, do a little summary about what's happened over the last few days.
Oh my God, you must be busy.
And yes, I mean, my partner produces it, and she's an incredible musician and producer, so she really she puts all the sounds in. It sounds great.
Brilliant, brilliant. So there's a podcast, and like I said, if you haven't seen him, if you're into TikTok, just Mr. Cody Dahler, Dahler. It's definitely worth it. Right, let's move on and have a look at some of the papers. Yes. And we have the Miami Herald today. We normally would go with any sort of newspaper across America. My producer has the right to just go and find me a newspaper. So the Miami Herald, White House says it didn't defy court order on deportations. This is really minutiae, isn't it? This is really nitpicky of them.
Yeah, well, sort of. I mean, it's kind of quite consistent with what he's doing across the board, isn't it? It's just this kind of... It just strikes at the root of Donald Trump, which is he's ignoring all law. Yeah. So this court said you can't deport them. He deported them, and he cited some 18th century law.
1798 Alien Act.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, I'm surprised he even cited something, because
Yeah.
I think at this rate he can just kind of carry off the way he likes.
Well, this is the concern, isn't it? Because actually a lot of people are suggesting that Donald Trump, by ignoring or defying that court order, he is now in contempt of court, and that is an impeachable position to be in. But if you believe his scary White House press secretary, she said, well, no, they were up in the air. And a judge can't turn an aircraft around, so Yabu sucks.
Yeah, is that why he spends so much time on Air Force One?
Yeah.
Just desperately trying to cling to international airspace.
anything. But what worries me, I think, about this is that this is part of a playbook that Vladimir Putin used. This is part of a playbook that similarly other fascists have used, and that is to defy what would seem to be a small order and then push a little bit further next time, get away with this one, get away with defying this court order, and then where does he go next?
Totally. I mean, this isn't the first thing he's gotten away with, though, is it? I mean, we've got all of his there was so many criminal investigations into him when he got into office, and they were just kind of brushed under the carpet.
34 felonies.
I mean, yeah. I mean, this is what happens when a mob takes control of a country. I think it's happening. You know, and people are like, yeah, this could be sort of fascist. I think it is. It's you get rid of all laws, and then what he tweeted on Truth Social or something, that a man who saves his country breaks no laws. I mean, it really is like proper 1930s stuff.
Yeah, and you look at the king thing as well. It was Julius Caesar that first did that, right, going right back in time. And there was a big crowd of people around Caesar, and somebody shouted, "Long live the king," right? And he wanted to test to see if people would respond to that. They weren't happy with it, right? They weren't happy with it, so he went, what can I do next? And then somebody put a crown on a Caesar bust or something. So this is what they do. They try and see. So these were set up. He set up these people going, "Long live the king," because that's the position that he wanted to be seen as. So and Mussolini was the same, and so it's that whole thing about being the king. You know, the fake Time magazine front page with the crown on. Testing the water.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's literally, I know we were talking about sort of Elon Musk and Zuckerberg being toddlers, but I mean, it's like with kids, you know, there's a red line and children push it, and then you have to stand firm, else you know they'll realise they can break it this time and then break it again. I mean, I think what it speaks to is not only is I mean, we know Trump is a massive ego. It's the complete spinelessness of anyone in the Republican Party.
Or even the Democrats. Where are they?
I mean, sure, absolutely. I mean, definitely. I mean, Democrats are pretty. There's not a great selection of them, but I mean, the Republicans have majority in the Senate and the Congress. I mean, it's up to them. It's up to only a few. They don't have a big majority. It's down to literally just a few Republicans with some integrity to attempt to hold this kind of character in check. And there's not even 2 or 3 within the party willing to do that.
And it just strikes me that each of them is waiting for some big pivotal moment, some huge thing. That's not how democracies are taken over. It's bit by bit. But if you look at any history book, I'm a big defence person. I love looking into defence and the falling of democracies and the birth of democracies, indeed, as well. And this is how it's done, and it's so in a kind of car crash kind of way, interesting, where you're thinking, am I watching the end of a democracy? Is this what's happening? And if people don't step in soon, this could be exactly what we're watching.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think totally. I mean, I don't want to sound alarmist.
No.
I mean, it is happening. And I think also something. There's a novel by a novelist called Hanya Yanagihara who wrote A Little Life. She wrote another novel called To Paradise, and it's a kind of dystopian fiction, and the sort of twist, not to ruin it for anyone reading at the moment, but the kind of twist is that America lives in this dystopian world and you think it's the whole planet, because it's being told from the perspective of an American, and then the kind of twist is that it's just America that is living in this dystopian world with kind of this authoritarian regime, and the rest of the earth has just kind of carried on as normal. And it's starting to feel like that, where you're like, Trump could, you know, we see it, and we see what he's doing, and we're like, oh, it's sort of very scary in America, but we're kind of here in the UK, and you know, Europe with Ukraine, we're kind of reacting. We're sort of gradually now trying to get our own way of doing things. But you're like, America they've got him for 4 years, and he's ignoring laws just like this. I mean, it's not a huge leap if he's then going to run for a third term. And it's possible that there is some kind of parallel reality where America becomes a fascist state and the rest of the world turns its back on it.
My understanding as well is that on the first day, the Constitution was removed from the White House website.
Really?
It was taken down, yeah. And have we not already heard the words that the Constitution is unconstitutional?
Is that what he's been saying?
Yeah, those words have indeed been spoken.
So he removed it from the web.
Yeah, it's not available on the White House website anymore.
Crikey.
I know, first day that was taken.
Wow.
So look, I absolutely hope that I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong, but blimey, it doesn't half look pretty bad. Squeezed from the left and the right, Pam Bondi is Trump's most besieged cabinet member. That is saying something, because they're all besieged at the moment, aren't they? Nearly 6 weeks into her tenure, Attorney General Pam Bondi finds herself in an unenviable position of being the sole Trump cabinet member absorbing constant political heat from critics on both the left, who are decrying cuts to the nation's top law enforcement agency, and on the right, who remain furious about her failure to deliver on one of their great white whales, the Jeffrey Epstein files.
They're addicted to releasing files.
They like it,
yeah,
they
love a file.
Except when it's got something interesting in it.
Yes, unless when it concerns Trump itself.
And we have seen photographs of Trump with Epstein, and we know that he went to visit him on his island. So those files, perhaps they're not going to be released up until maybe S.
Yes, yeah. Anyone before S can be.
That can be
plastered
really
across Facebook. So Truth Social.
Yeah, S, and then maybe we'll release the others a little bit later.
Pictures with a suspicious sort of blur over one orange bit.
I don't know if we'll ever see that, but there we go. And gangs continue attacks against the new outlets in Haiti. Armed groups in Haiti have targeted another news outlet, making it the third to be attacked. Well, I mean, this is Donald Trump has also made trying to make CNN and MSNBC, whatever it's called, MSN something, illegal.
Illegal?
Yeah, he said that they're illegal.
Well, they've been trying to pack the politicising the White House. It sounds kind of ridiculous to say 'cause it's all politics, but they're trying to control. They want
the
podcasters
press.
and things like that in the White House briefing room now.
Yeah, and of course when Zelensky was in there, they don't know how, but a Russian crew got in.
Really?
Yeah.
I think we know exactly how. Completely. Of course, you speak a bit of Russian, all the doors open at the White House, I'm sure.
It really does seem to be the case. Right, Cody and I are going to take a really quick break, but we will be back to start on the British papers next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, good to have your company, and with me is the fabulous Cody Darla, who is a comedian and a comedy writer, podcaster, and you can find him on all of the social medias, and he's definitely worth looking for. Cody, we're going to start on the Times for Wednesday. Putin keeps ceasefire hopes on a knife's edge. It just really confuses me, right? It really confuses me that. Okay, Ukraine is defending itself, all they've got to do is for Russia to stop. I kind of go, has nobody else noticed that?
Yeah, well, there's no understanding it. I mean, it's so you either it's a sort of conflicting
he just stops.
realities.
He's not having to defend himself. He's not defending himself from Ukraine, right?
Well,
if he stops, Ukraine stops,
right.
and then it stops.
Exactly. Well, he's always the one who says that NATO threatens him, but NATO's a defensive alliance.
Yeah.
So it's like, by its nature, NATO doesn't attack anyone. NATO's never attacked anyone. But it's not a question of facts. It's a question of realities. In Putin's world, or in the Russian world of kind of state control and media control, they believe that Ukraine is a neo-Nazi state. And if you believe that, then absolutely you would never agree to a ceasefire. I mean, obviously Putin, either he's convinced himself that he does believe it, or I think he's a bit more Machiavellian than that. Yeah. Well, I mean, Trump. I think the tragedy of this is that Ukraine was like, they weren't winning the war, but they weren't losing it. And if they'd have given it another year, and if Trump had come in and put economic sanctions on Russia and ramped them up, the Russian economy would have buckled within a year or 18 months. And that's a lot. That's not to say there wouldn't be like a lot of human loss, but Trump has come in and legitimised a failing Russian state by treating them like a superpower. And so now they've kind of, in their mind, they have legitimacy, and he's talking to them as if they are a superpower when they're not. If he'd have decided to just do economic sanctions like the rest of Europe, Ukraine would have won this in 18 months. So that is the real tragedy. He's now giving Putin just complete legitimacy to be a global player, which he isn't. And he knows he isn't, which is why he's kind of been doing these little skirmishes. And I mean, the Russian army has not taken Ukraine.
No. And it is really quite interesting, because people always go, oh, yeah, but they're the superpower. No, not really, because we know what they wanted, and they certainly wanted Odessa. They've never really pushed. They're close, but they've never really got there. They're not the big bear that everybody thinks they are. And I do think, Cody, that people will look back at this point in history and literally go, that was the point at which we could have won this. That we could have pushed Russia back, that we could have potentially even destroyed Putin. This was the opportunity of many people's lifetimes, and we didn't take it.
Absolutely, yeah, I totally agree. I mean, if Putin lost the war in, like I say, 18 months, 2 years, whatever, the economy in Russia gets so bad that there would have been opposition figures who would have arisen, and he would have been toppled. Yeah.
And then you do a big trade deal with them, because at the moment Putin's winning everything. He's going to get to keep Crimea. He's going to get to keep, I suspect, most, if not all, of the land that he's taken. He's going to get to dictate the peace terms. And like you said, he is not in the position to do it. He's not. I mean, look at the first few weeks of the incursion. All the tyres were melting or exploding, or all these rotten old vehicles were getting stuck in mud. You think, is that the best you got, mate?
They're all driving in their minivans.
Yeah, I mean, it literally was so bad. All this sort of rubbish Chinese stuff that had been stockpiled for years and had all disintegrated. It's not as you've absolutely said, it's not something at the moment that couldn't be beaten back. And for the sake of the Russian people as well.
Completely. The whole thing is. I mean, this is like what I find confusing is when there's any kind of humouring of Putin in any way. But it's like you say, this is the moment we could have stopped him, but it's the moment that Trump came in. So it's not that we could have stopped him. It's maybe the 17 people in the swing state that actually got Trump elected that could have stopped all of this, which is then you get into the madness of politics.
Yeah, that's true, because where would we be if it was Kamala Harris? And a lot of people will be listening and go, well, at least he's trying for peace. Well, that's what Zelensky has wanted. He didn't want it in the first place, let alone has wanted peace from day one. And like I said, the easy thing, Russia isn't defending anything. If they stopped, then Ukraine wouldn't shoot at them, because they're only defending themselves. And this is what is driving me nuts. It's like, well, why are we even talking about a peace deal? It's so simple. Just stop shooting.
Absolutely, yeah. And people also, it's funny in that point where people are like, well, Trump's come in and he's, at least he's shaking things up a bit. So, well, he's shaking things up a bit by behaving like a moron. Yeah. I mean, this is, like you say, we've made Putin, who would have been a pariah, we've given him like a sort of a royal flush. Yeah. He's now going to get land in Ukraine. He's got to get the question of Crimea, I think, is now null and void. He's going to keep it. And it's like, well, that's not mixing things up. That's literally being so dim-witted to giving up, land that isn't Trump's to a literal dictator who hasn't had an election in 25 years.
It was so funny this afternoon. I was watching the news, and I'm sat on my sofa, and my dog sort of curled up there, and there was this quote that came out that said that came from Lavrov, I think it was, about Russia, who said, the Trump and Putin phone call has been, epic, or whatever word he used. The world is now a safer place. And I was like, and I shouted, what the actual... And my dog, what are you talking about? I haven't done anything. Because it's like, you can't make the world dangerous, then stop making the world as dangerous, and then claim victory over not making it dangerous. I mean, it's just mad.
Yeah, it's not the maddest thing they do, though, is it? Like you say, if you actually interrogate the Russian justification for invading Ukraine, it's like you go down the rabbit hole. I mean, there's not. And this is the question is whether it's just all a big joke and whether they just kind of, it's just they're trolling us, or whether they legitimately believe that there's this crazy pariah state that NATO is kind of sponsoring neo-Nazi guerrilla groups to kill Russians. It's bonkers.
It really is bonkers. But it's like me coming over there and punching you repeatedly in the face, and then stopping punch you in the face and saying, "See, I've done you a favour." I mean, it's like It's like the world isn't a safer place just because you and Trump... And what about the hockey match? Did you hear about this?
No.
And it was funny because I was talking to a Ukrainian MP at the beginning of the programme who said that suggestion by Putin to Trump that they have a ice hockey match between America and Russia was actually Putin taking the absolute mick out of him. It was just like, literally just so...
What, and Trump was like, that sounds like a great idea.
Of course he did. He's like, that's great. We're gonna play hockey, and the Ukrainian guy said that is classic Putin. That is him just taking the mick and basically going, what about a hockey match? Because he knows that Trump will go, oh, how lovely, we're great friends.
I love hockey. Tremendous game.
Tremendous game. Although we lose it to the Canadians, but it'll be the 51st game. And the other story on the front of, oh gosh, this is a big story. The hot cross bun travesty.
Naturally.
You a hot cross bun man?
I think probably yes at this time of year, but there's some pretty wayward alchemy going on with the hot cross bun industry.
Is there?
You've
what
got to
are they doing?
You walk into a Tesco, you're finding fudge in there.
No.
You're finding sort of Bakewell tart, hot cross buns. It's getting really out of hand.
Why isn't that across all of the front pages?
Well, I think they're sort of clearly Starmer with the benefits thing is trying to bury the hot cross bun story, which is classic loony lefties, if you ask me.
Classic loony lefties. So what? The hot cross bun is just a hot cross bun, shouldn't it be? Shouldn't it be?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to betray the kind of the production of this show, but all I'm seeing is the hot cross bun travesty, and I'm not seeing any more detail on this story.
But it must be what you're talking about. You're ahead of the curve.
Do you think that's what? Maybe that is actually what it is.
Yeah, it must be.
Oh well, fine. Absolutely, it is a travesty.
Yeah, you're just on it, finger on the pulse.
Yeah, I'm sensing it in the air. I'm sensing the kind of unfolding tragedy.
I mean, it must be. It must be. But I like a hot cross bun, but at any other time of the year but Easter, because I'm just a rebel.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Oh wow, you're an out of seasoned.
Yeah.
What they call it? You're not a fair weather hot cross bunner.
Yeah. No, I'm not. I'm out of season. I'll eat an Easter egg, but not at Easter. I'll eat Christmas cake, but not at Christmas. It's
fantastic.
Just my little
Yeah, you're really anti-establishment. Actually, I didn't know I was talking to a firebrand.
Look, I mean, I'm on it. I'm all over it. I should be on social media, really. I really should, because I've got things to say, Cody. I've got things to get people to influence them.
Put on a silly voice, and the 13-year-olds will absolutely love you.
Do you know what? I've never wanted to be on social media. I suppose because I do this, and maybe it's...
Yeah. You know. I mean, does anyone want to be on social media? I mean, it's a great medium for doing the sort of...
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people say to me, oh, you should do it. You know, I might sell pictures of my feet.
Yes, absolutely. Or you
Yeah.
can always get on OnlyFans and sell pictures of your feet.
Yeah. Although it's been done, so I'm going to have to think of something else.
I don't know, every foot is different. Every foot's different, don't forget that.
Don't forget that. There could be a market for it. We're going to take a quick break, but Cody and I will be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, good to have your company, and with me is Cody Darla, who's a comedy writer and podcaster, and is all over the socials. Is that what the youth say?
Yeah, all over the socials.
All over the socials, babe.
Yeah.
Which I am not. So there you go. The Daily Mail for Wednesday, is that it, is the headline. Andrew Neil says Labour's blown a once-in-a-generation chance to slash Britain's bloated welfare bill. That's above the... That's an odd front page, actually. Crikey. They've tried to put 3 stories on there and none of them make any sense. But the welfare bill, of course, that was announced today. We saw more detail on that. I'm going to be talking about that a little bit later. But how do you do it, though? This is the question, isn't it? Because I was talking about this last week on this programme with my phone-in hour, and the fear is always with these things that you throw the baby out with the bathwater, that somebody's going to be hurt by this, somebody's going to be injured by this. But it seems like just a blunt hammer just to get people off benefits. Right, if you're young, you can't have them until you're 22. What if you're ill before then? You know, I mean, I don't know how you do it, but of course the bill is too high. So
yeah, I mean, it's a characteristically odd take from Neil, if you ask me. I mean, the 22-year-old thing is crazy, because the bill essentially, I mean, it basically all but says you can't be disabled until you're over 22, which is ludicrous. I mean, to say, like, the only saving grace from today for Labour was Helen Whately's, the Conservative shadow working pensions, her response, because I mean, you know, there are lots of backbench Labour MPs very, very, very unhappy with this. I'm a Labour supporter, and I think it stinks. But you know, and you can tell that the Keir Starmer and his cabinet ministers were also uncomfortable with it, because they were talking so emphatically about how they were really empowering working people. So all the Conservatives needed to do today, and all any Conservative commentator needed to do, is just drive a wedge between the backbenchers and the frontbenchers. And Helen Whately said that they should go further with benefit cuts, and talked about how it's too little too late, even though Labour have only been in power for 9 months and the Conservatives didn't do anything like this in the 15 years they were in power.
And Kelly wanted to take away maternity rights, didn't she?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Like, the Conservative response has literally, I think, united Labour, just because for the response to be this should go further, I think is ludicrous.
They did miss a moment there.
Totally. And also, like you say, I think if Labour were genuinely interested in getting people back to work, which is a noble ambition, then they should have introduced all of the measures they've done today to get people back into work without slashing all of the benefits for people who legitimately can't work and are unable to work.
Yeah.
It's not a Labour policy, and I fear that this is once again like Keir Starmer and his cabinet being, you know, they're allowing the right to pick the battlefields, and Labour are never going to win on welfare, because it's just like, it's the equivalent of the Tories raising taxes. This
Yeah.
is just not a comfortable place for a Labour Party.
No, and they did swing out of the gate with the winter fuel allowance, which again was a very blunt tool. I mean, yeah, some rich people had it taken away, great, but there were some other people, and I've spoken to a lot of them on this show, who were really scared, really worried, really upset, and really felt betrayed. I mean, like, properly betrayed. Labour voters all their lives, and they've gone, well, I know he doesn't think I vote for him anymore because I'm old, but don't kill me off because of it. And there was real passion about that. And for these cuts to come on top of that, it is not a good look for Labour.
No, I think it's terrible. And the fact that Starmer has done an op-ed in the Times, I think
He likes
shows
doing those,
it shows which kind of audience he's trying to pander to. I think all this is going to achieve is sort of working class people are going to see a Labour Party that essentially pursues the same kinds of policies as the Conservatives, and all that's going to do is drive them towards parties like Reform UK. The Labour Party has always represented workers, and it's always represented the vulnerable, because we essentially, for better or worse, have a two-party system in this country. It's either the Conservatives in power or Labour. The Conservatives will never represent the interests, in my opinion, of vulnerable people. So if a Labour Party comes in with a huge majority and chooses not to, then I really, my heart goes out to anyone who receives any of those benefits or is actually feeling quite scared, because it would appear there's not a single supporter for the vulnerable in this country right now, and I think that's a really poor place for a Labour Party with such a huge majority.
And also, of course, the worry is that Reform will not care either, but there will be a genuine, and we've tried those two over and over again, and it's not worked. This is what put Donald Trump in power in 2016, and so they're going to give them a go.
Totally. I mean, it's the I mean, ever since the Brexit referendum, it's those horrible words, which is the protest vote. Yeah. And we protest votes very rarely result in a good outcome in this country. And yeah,
But it will be Labour's fault.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to come up with another explanation. Yeah, I mean, this is. I sympathise with Labour in a way, because, as we see in modern times, that political persuasions, people don't really have colours anymore, I don't think. They can be swayed, and there is a real urgency that the Labour government are feeling to get things over the line and to get to the end of this Parliament and be able to point to things that people that they've changed, that people can feel. They want people's lives to improve. So this is really kind of a strange. I mean, people will feel policy.
This, but
they will,
but not in the way that is going to win them any favours.
Yeah,
it's a really interesting one, and I just wonder if Keir Starmer has come into power thinking, right, I've got this super majority, but on a very thin basis, on a very thin vote, and he's not thinking beyond that there's no real strategy as to who Labour is. He's not explaining to us, OK, we'll hear Richard Reeves and we'll hear Liz Kendall saying things like, this is going to do X, Y, Z. But he's the boss, and look, his popularity has gone up since the Trump made me physically feel sick when he was sucking up to Trump, but I know why he had to do it. Get it? And his behaviour with Zelensky, his popularity has risen. But his base are interested in what happens in this country, not what happens in Ukraine and Russia.
And politics is about story. I mean, the reason that Trump is in power is because he has a story in Make America Great Again.
Exactly.
And the story that is unfolding in this country, I mean, aside from Labour having message blunders all the time, they don't have a very clear story about what they're planning to do over the next 5 years. And so the story, you kind of have to find it yourself, and you just look across this country and the story is plain to see, where you see a front page that shows the Labour government choosing to punish vulnerable people, and you see companies like Thames Water literally paying out billions of pounds to shareholders. You see a week that's seen the record number of landlords registering their properties as businesses and companies' house to avoid taxes. I mean, the story, and this is incredibly dangerous for Labour, to the point where you have to doubt whether they're even a Labour Party, because it would seem that they're choosing to punish working people, vulnerable people, over the actual rich and powerful in the country. And it's not great. Politics is complicated, and it's not about, becoming a communist state, but there's balances, you know. There are people that should pay more.
But like you said, it's the story, and this is what won Tony Blair in 1997. The huge landslide victory that he got was that he had a very clear message as to who he was. He made sure all of his team, all of the MP, everybody around him had the same message, and they came out and they did it. It's the first time it had been tried or used really in British politics, and it was so successful because people understood what they were getting when they got Tony Blair. Now, he may have let people down later on in his tenure, but certainly at the beginning it was very, very clear who he was. And I was having this conversation yesterday actually, and saying, look, nobody knows who these parties are anymore. I mean, who are the Tories? What is Labour? And we don't really know much about reform, but it's just like, who are they?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is also a product of the fact that Labour won on the basis of the Conservatives being, I think, one of the most disgraceful performances.
I don't think we vote governments in this country. We vote them out.
We kick people out, absolutely, yeah. And I think actually that the Labour Party didn't have to develop an incredibly strong message in order to get into power, because, like, say, you have 4 prime ministers or 3 prime ministers in 2 months or something. I mean, yeah, the Conservative Party imploded.
Yeah, embarrassing.
Yeah.
Just awful. And now they're looking at trying to get rid of Kemi, and it's just like, just
yeah, I mean,
stop.
This is, yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I could have seen that from a mile off.
Yeah,
I mean,
obviously.
They always pick the worst person and then begin complaining about them immediately.
Yeah, I mean, they're all they want to do is survive, and they don't really care how they do it. Let's have a look at, let's go to the Sun newspaper now, shall we? Great front page on the Sun. Let me down in the last few weeks, but I like this front page. Putin's 30-day partial ceasefire, so no attacks on energy plants, but Vlad can still hit the front line. I mean, that's no kind of ceasefire, is it? Don agrees, ice hockey games, what the puck? Words that I also nearly said when I saw this. Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin failed to halt the Ukraine war. Yeah, a lot of people are saying, actually, Cody, that this is a real failure for Trump, because he thought he could go in there and make Putin dance to his tune, and he's come out of it with nothing, which is why we have not seen Donald Trump in front of the camera.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it's...
Because he would be, right?
Yeah,
He loves
totally.
it.
I mean, it's not... He's one of the most anticipated phone calls. And then, yeah, no result.
Yeah.
I mean, it is embarrassing.
Yeah.
For a man that claims to be able to solve everything.
Yeah. But at least he's got a hockey game.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, he's got a hockey game. He's probably got a massive phone bill as well. That hotline to Moscow.
Oh, unless they did it on Zoom.
They probably
or
did
something,
it on Zoom,
or on Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, he's pretty old school, isn't he, Donald? They didn't have Zoom in 1930s.
Look at the state of that. It's a good front page, though.
Yeah.
Very, very good. Generation Z gets benefits cut for anxiety and depression. We've had a look at that. That's the I. The FT reaves to squeeze spending further next week, despite $5 billion in welfare cuts. Yeah, that's the other interesting thing, is we've got the spring statement, and she cannot come back for more tax because she's ruled that out. So there's going to be more cuts. I think that's called austerity, isn't it?
Yeah, it's strange, but it's Starmer's Labour, so we're not calling it austerity.
Oh, we're not?
No.
No.
It's definitely not austerity.
Definitely not austerity. Right.
It's just cutting, which is different. It's just cutting from public finances, and that is different.
That is... Actually, I see your point.
Yeah.
It's really
There's a
different.
very subtle difference.
Yeah.
It's the difference between a normal hot cross bun and a hot cross bun with small flecks of fudge in it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
they're essentially the same thing.
That was genius.
Thank you very much.
Pulling those two stories.
They call that synergy.
Fantastic. Let's take a break while we applaud Cody further. Back in a sec.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there. It's good to have your company. It's time to find out now how you could be in with a chance of winning Oasis tickets at Wembley this summer. Take it away, Mike.
How do you fancy winning tickets to the hottest gig of the century? Here at Talk, we're giving you the chance to bag yourself a pair of tickets to Oasis at Wembley this summer. Plus, we're giving away a whopping 10 grand and putting you up for the weekend in a London hotel. All you need to do is text the word prize to 83338 and you're in the draw. Alternatively, you can enter by post. Once again, all you need to do is text the word prize to 83338 or you can enter by post. Good luck.
18 plus UK excluding Northern Ireland. Enter by text for £2 plus one standard network charge by 11 p.m. on the 7th of April 2025. Or post your name and number to Oasis Competition, PO Box 3190. Colchester CO2 8GP to arrive by 5 p.m. on the 10th of April 2025. Full terms and conditions at talksport.com.
This is a news
Hello there. So there you go. That's how you can win the ticket. And you can't even buy these anymore. You don't want to miss out on seeing the gig of the decade. So good luck with that. And also don't forget that 10 grand. So now, I'm still with Cody Darla, and we'll look at the Daily Star now, Cody. And it's my fault. I'm going out of order.
This is a good one.
And normally I'm so controlling that I make sure all the papers are in the same order, but now I'm just free falling everywhere. So this is a great story. Vive la France. Trump is taking a liberty, so give us our statue back. The fuming French say America should send back their Statue of Liberty as man-baby Trump doesn't know what it stands for. I mean, it's a great picture. You have Trump as the Statue of Liberty, and architect. He hasn't got onions around his neck. I'm disappointed in that.
Yeah, that's true. He could be a mime artist coming back from the bakery.
Yeah.
There's no garlic.
There's no garlic, but he's a Frenchman in a beret. I mean, this has been said by France, but I mean, obviously it was a. Well, I don't know these days.
Well, it was. I mean, it's. Not to get rid of the excitement. I mean, it was one French person.
Yeah.
One French MEP said that he should give it back, and the White House press secretary was fired back with, "If it wasn't for us, you'd be speaking German." Because of course, I don't know if you know, there was a big war between 1939 and 1945. The Americans had a small involvement in.
Yeah.
And actually,
but they think they won it. Yeah, I remember that.
Yes, America won that war.
Yeah.
But the Australian Prime Minister had a good rebuke, to bring in a fancy word. He said, well, if it wasn't for the French, the Americans would be playing cricket, because they, of course, supported George Washington against the British. So there's a little bit of, for the history buffs, this is a hilarious story.
It's a hilarious, funny story in amongst the absolute turmoil. And did I hear that Donald Trump is renaming Washington, D.C.?
I didn't know that, but I can believe it.
Yeah.
What's he renaming
it? He's renaming Washington, D.C. as Washington, not D.C., because D.C. stands for something Columbia, District of Columbia. And he's... and he doesn't want it to be the District of Columbia anymore, because we're nowhere near Columbia. So he's renaming it something else, but I'll get that to you before the end of the programme.
Greenland.
That's red, white and blue land.
Oh, I see.
Remember that. That's what they're naming Greenland. So, no, he's renaming Washington, D.C. It's not. I didn't make it up, people. My team look at me like I'm absolutely lost my mind. So let's have a look at the other papers now. Metro, again, it's the story about the PIP crackdown. Great headline on the Mirror, and in true Mirror style as well. Worried sick. Good headline. Good line. We like that. That's a good writing there. Labour's welfare cuts were last night branded cruel amidst fears they will plunge the sick and of disability into poverty. Okay, Gulf of Mexico, we've got that one. Users shared the rumour on Blue Sky, Facebook and Instagram depicting No, we've got a district. Oh, yeah, he wants to call it the District of America. That's it. So he's renamed the Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America. Nobody else in the world. I'm so petty, I contacted Google and said it's not Gulf of America, it's Gulf of Mexico. I'm so small.
Had they changed it, hadn't they?
Yeah. They had. Now they've got it in brackets.
So Gulf of Mexico, brackets, Gulf of America.
Yeah. Because I myself and I think millions of other people were so small-minded that we contacted Google and said that's misinformation. So they had to change it. Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of America. A rumour circulated online alleging he also wanted to rename the District of Columbia to the District of America. Doesn't like Washington,
there is a Columbia
DC.
in America, though.
Yeah.
But what's his problem with that?
Because Columbia's a long way away. In his mind. It might not be, it might be true. It says it's rumours. They're going, it's not true. He's saying it's not true. It doesn't say it's not true, it says it could be true. So... Where? However, oh. Damn. It was fake. I liked it. Fake news. But now he's heard that, he's going to go,
Yeah, he's going to be like, great idea.
Great idea.
I was listening to Petrie.
Yeah, Columbia.
Great idea.
Long way away. He would never listen to me. He would hate me. He would have me interned. I'm telling you. I mean, we don't get on, me and Donny. The Daily Telegraph, Putin. This is the most honest headline. This is the most honest headline that I've seen from anybody, actually. Putin rejects Trump's ceasefire. And that is the truth. There's other people going, oh, it's going to be great, you know, this is terrific, He has rejected it out of hand. And all he's done is agree to no airstrikes on infrastructure and all that kind, because he doesn't want that back, actually, because Ukraine have been very successfully knocking out their refineries and things like that, and also the Black Sea, which again he wants it stopped for him, not for Ukraine. So all he's done is stop the worst bits for himself, and he's not agreed to anything that Trump wanted.
Yeah. But I think you'll find that Trump is bringing some much-needed energy and some dynamic thinking to this crisis.
Undoubtedly.
Yeah. He's really mixing it up and doing very, very well.
Really good. Talking of Trump, Badenoch says, Farage is a reality TV star. He's not fit to run your life. Same as Donald Trump.
Yeah, exactly. That's really going to work in Nigel's favour, I think.
Didn't they fall out though? Or is it, he's fallen out with Elon Musk.
Yeah, Elon Musk said he wasn't going to give $100 million to Reform UK, and that Rupert Lowe should be a better leader. Rupert Lowe, who sort of, what are we saying? I guess it's all alleged, because it's all probably legal stuff. But alleged bullying against two female members of staff and tried to beat up the party chair.
That just came out coincidentally when he...
Yeah, when he said that Nigel was a messiah.
Yeah, I mean, there are such things as coincidences, I guess.
Yeah. Loads of coincidences in that one.
Loads. GCSE exams to be scaled back because pupils are too stressed.
Very stressful, GCSEs. They're very stressful.
I did O-levels.
Yes.
Old.
I mean, I did do GCSEs, but I mean O-levels, they're just a precursor. It doesn't mean you're that old. But yeah, I mean, they are stressful, GCSEs, and I can tell you that...
aren't they sort of meant to be, in a way?
They're sort of warm-up, aren't they? But I mean, I got very stressed over my GCSEs. I got so stressed during my A-levels that my appendix exploded. So I do think they are very stressful.
And you put that down to the A-levels?
I think it actually, embarrassingly, probably was the A-levels, actually.
Oh, really?
I think, well, I mean, I'm sure I would have got it. It was made a lot worse by the fact that I had to miss my A-level politics exam. So maybe it's all mixed together. But I never used my GCSEs.
No, I was going to say, I mean, did you pass them?
I did pass them,
passed them. I was just wondering if that's why you're a comedy writer.
Yeah, that's right. I'm now, comedy writer, read unemployed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think 16 is... I mean, it's a bit of a political headline, isn't it? I'm sure it's slightly more nuanced than the fact they're just too stressed. I mean, no one uses GCSEs. Just give 16-year-olds a break, I say.
But, I mean, that is the thing. I mean, at what point does anybody care what your exams are? I don't think I've ever been asked.
I don't think I've ever been asked to present my degree.
I don't have one.
There we go. What are we doing?
What
School's
are we
out.
doing? School's out, kids.
Stop studying and get TikToking.
Worst advice you're ever going to get. It's only the very few like Cody who managed to make it through. This is sweet, isn't it? The John Paddy Hemingway. We talked about this on the show the other day. The last surviving Battle of Britain pilot, 105 years old. I'm glad to see the papers were actually quite full of stories about him through Tuesday, and they're still talking about him on Wednesday's Daily Telegraph. I think it's just really sweet, and you just look at him and you just know he's from Central Casting.
Yeah,
isn't he?
He really is. He looks quite dashing.
Genuinely from Central Casting as to what exactly a fighter pilot should look like.
Yeah.
So that's it for the papers. So what next for you, Cody?
Well, I've been live streaming this whole thing. You can catch it on my TikTok channel.
You have
No, I haven't, no. What next for me? I don't know, really. It'll probably be holding my phone in front of my face and doing some silly joke. But yeah, not to shamelessly plug my podcast. I do it twice a week.
Yeah.
So episode coming out tomorrow morning, and then every Saturday. And yeah, I'm sure probably if the listeners haven't been screaming at the radio or the computer, calling me a big wokey or something, they probably enjoy it.
They probably have been calling you that, but to be fair, they call me that. So
fine. Well, two wokies together. Maybe
Petrie,
maybe it's just you that will. I'll get one more listener then.
Yeah, I mean, look, honestly, it's such a pleasure to meet you, Cody.
Oh,
likewise. I'd love it if you come back.
I'd love to. Thank you so much for having me. This has been brilliant.
Because it has been really fun, and like I said, just if you get the chance to have a look at Cody's stuff, then do. And if you've missed it, should we play his clip again? We got a chance. Play some of it anyway. Let's play Cody's clip because it's brilliant. He's very funny. Okay, here we go. This is Cody Darla.
Elon, you naughty boy. What do you mean, what have you done? Now you're just winding me up.
The chainsaw for bureaucracy. Chainsaw!
Hi, listen, you have to believe me. I have no idea where he got that chainsaw from. Of course I've taken it off of him. Do you think I'm an idiot? Mark, Jeff, please stop crying, okay? Mark, baby, we'll try and get a tourniquet on your arm, okay? Just give me 1 second. I'm trying to sort it out. They are absolutely traumatised, those two. Just really don't know. Just off. Elon, for God's sake, stop it! He's just sat in the corner making chainsaw noises and saying like, I am the chainsaw man. I am the chainsaw man. Vroom, 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 vroom. And I had exactly the same thought, but Jeff has promised me that the chainsaw did not come from Amazon. And honestly, I'm looking at him now. He is screaming at the top of his lungs. He's so scared, and I've had to change his pants 3 times. He's literally shit himself. The boy is terrified, okay? He's telling the truth. He's the definition of a problem child. Mark, baby, don't go near Elon. Don't go near Elon. Elon, stop growling. Mark, sweetheart, come hold my leg. Hold my leg. Stay away from him. I just think the 3 of them are too hard to handle with one. Oh my God, where's Elon? Oh my God. Jesus Christ, he was trying to beat Jeff to death with a lawnmower.
So there you go, the truth in my opinion. Cody, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Indeed, Cody Darla there. Right, coming up, it is just you and me for the next hour, and we are talking about the fact that these announcements now coming out about the PIP and about benefits. It does look like more than 1 million of you will be losing thousands of pounds a year. And if you think, well, I'm on PIP already, so they're not going to come after me, they want to do reassessments, and during that reassessment, if you don't pass the bar, they will take those away from you. Now, I'm not fear-mongering, but I do need you to listen to the next hour because I shall go through all of the details and tell you what it is that you've got to do in order to maintain your PIP. I also want to hear from you as to what kind of change this is going to make to your life. So please pick up the phone, 0344 499 1000. Give me a call.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi there, and a very good morning to you. It is Petrie here with you for the next hour. And just before we get to our phone in, I did want to touch base with my favourite spaceman, Andy Lound, as two astronauts, well, four actually did, but the two astronauts that have been stuck up in space for 9 months have returned to Earth. Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore splashed down off the Florida coast, and we took those images live here on Talk. Andy, I know you wouldn't have been anywhere else, but looking at those images too, they were amazing, weren't they?
Yes, they were. They were fantastic. It was really interesting to see the media covering the whole event, of course, which was quite important to see them entering the atmosphere, coming through the atmosphere, parachutes deploying, splashing down, and then the dolphins. Did you notice the dolphins swimming around the spacecraft as well at one point, which I thought was quite fun. And then the recovery of it. So it was a textbook splashdown, and it was good. It was covered actually in mainstream media, so that people could actually see these things happening.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen such detail before, Andy. Because I mean, I could have sworn that they got them out of the capsule in the water and put them into the boat. But on this, to see them lifting the capsule really slowly, really gently, because they'd already been through quite a shock, those astronauts, and to placing it so gently onto the back of the vessel, the rescue vessel.
Yeah, it shows you how far we've come since the Apollo days, when of course Navy SEALs went in and opened the door and gave them some suits to wear, and then they came out and they were all winched into a helicopter, which in itself is a potentially dangerous situation. Something could go really wrong there. So this is a much more efficient system, a much safer system, because the spacecraft is inspected while it's in the water, and then it's loaded onto the carrier vessel, then inspected again before they ever open the doors. And it's a much better system. And I think it was good to see it all through, and seeing the astronauts coming out and putting into their protective couches to make sure they could actually, so they don't want them standing and running around yet, because they've got cardiovascular problems, could be there after all that time in space.
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? That you've got two of the astronauts there, Sonny and Butch, who have been up there for almost 9 months.
Yeah.
And although they're not the longest up there, by quite a long way, actually, it's 437 days is the longest, isn't it? Still, they're going to have to really be checked out. I mean, it's the first time a woman has, isn't it?
Well, no, they always get checked out. Some women actually have done some quite long duration space time up there. In fact, Sunita Williams herself, Sonny Williams, has been up there for a long stretch of time previously, and that's what made it interesting. The point was, of course, it was planned for 8 days, and so it's an unscheduled 9-month trip, but it wasn't the stranding that everybody has actually talked about. It was a scheduled thing. And I noticed they're playing a political game at the moment, saying that Biden deliberately left them up there. NASA made the decision. Biden probably did, because NASA probably asked him, well, can you give us the extra money, because Musk has offered to bring them back, and he's probably turned around and said, well, no, not really, you work within your budget. He said, right, okay, we can't do that then, we'll reschedule and schedule it that way. I think that's the reality. That's an administrative issue rather than anything else, although it is true Elon Musk did offer to bring them back and said there is a window, we have a spacecraft, if you want to bring them back quickly we can just go and do it. But NASA decided to reschedule things, simple as that really, for doing that. But that's a political issue. NASA and scientists and people can't afford to get into that mess because it's just silly. But yes, it's great to see them back, and they look very well, which you would expect. You wouldn't expect them to start making gestures that they weren't happy, but they are probably doing extremely well. Very, very interesting people. And Sunita Williams' work on the space station seems to have been absolutely unbelievable. She actually took control of it again. Of course, for a period of time, she became commander of it and did spacewalk and did some repair work, and they've done loads of scientific experiments. They essentially became the two crew members for Expedition 9, that's SpaceX Expedition 9, because two crew members were left behind, because when the Expedition 9 spacecraft went up, it went with the two astronauts who've just come back as well, plus clothing and things like that for Sunita and Butch, because of course they brought no clothes with them.
I mean, it is. What next for them, Andy? How long can we expect for them to be checked over medically? And when can we expect to see them at a press conference?
They may do it. Well, it depends how well they are, and they're going through all the medical checks straight away. And if they're generally quite well, we'll probably see a press conference from them reasonably quickly then, as they talk about their experiences and how it's gone. But it will be purely at the speed of the system. It will make sure they're healthy first, because it is quite a shock to the system after spending 9 months in space. And this is quite interesting because, 9 months in space, the general average journey time to Mars, if you were with a crew, for instance, is going to be somewhere between 7 to 9 months to get there. Then you'll be there, then you might not come back for 3 years. So you've got to look now at the situations of how the body can actually cope with all this. Although if you're on the surface of Mars, you do have 1/3 Earth's gravity, so you do have some gravity at least for you to work with. And again, it shows you although we're talking about spaceflight, easy access, it's still extremely dangerous, and we can see the stresses that are going to be on the human body after this is happening. So it'll be interesting to see how they are feeling afterwards, although they have done it before. And the body does adapt. The body will remember that it's been in space before, and it'll automatically adapt to that. That's quite an interesting thing the human body does. But of course, you've got the added levels of the radiation, you've got the added levels of the stress on the system in generally. So usually astronauts, over a period of time, we've seen for Apollo days, suffer from cardiovascular problems, heart problems, which is quite a common issue, sadly, that they have.
Yeah, and I was pointing out that neither of them really are spring chickens. You know, Sunny 59 and Butch at 62. No, because I think a lot of people would imagine that astronauts would be a lot younger, but actually that's not the case.
No, it isn't really. If you're the type of spacecraft which are being used now to put you into space, the rigours aren't as violent as they used to be. In fact, some fairground rides give you harder G efforts than actually spacecraft launches these days. Shuttle started that, which was much easier. I mean, bear in mind, William Shatner flew into space and he was over 90. So you do actually see that, but as long as you're reasonably healthy, you can actually take the stresses of the launch. I think it's the duration in a weightless environment where the issues become difficult, because of course you've got to do strong physical exercise daily to make sure you keep up your fitness, and you're on a strict diet as well. And some strict diets can actually be a bit stressful to some people if they're not used to that particularly. So I think it's the shock to the system rather than anything else. But overall, I think if you're going to have people working and living in space, you can't just keep sending up 20-year-olds, because you need people with experience and knowledge and common sense. You're going to need those people up there too. I mean, if you've got engineers going to work on the moon, you're going to have experienced engineers, and that means they're going to possibly be in their 40s or 50s to actually do the work. So it's important that these systems are there. And of course, it's a great example, of course, that, I mean, you know, 60 is the new 40 probably in reality now, the way we're living these days.
Yeah, no,
I hope so.
It's absolutely fascinating. I can't wait to hear what they've got to say about all of this, and we will no doubt be seeing them being paraded in front of cameras in the next few days. Andy Lound, thank you so much.
Thank you very much
for staying up late for me. Thank you. Andy Lound there about the two astronauts, that's Sunny Williams and Butch Wilmore, splashing down now back on Earth, splashdown just off the Florida coast. Now though, let's turn our attention to the phone-in this morning, and what I want to talk to you about is because we talked about this last week, didn't we? We talked about what might happen with benefit cuts and should they happen and things like that. Well, look, I said then that by this time this week that we would know more of the detail, and in fact, we do now. We've got much more of the detail as to what is going to be happening with those particular benefits. Well, more than 1 million Brits, about 1.2 million Brits, face losing thousands of pounds of disability benefits now, as Liz Kendall defies Labour fury in a desperate bid to cut $5 billion from a failing system. So large sums of money they're talking here that will be cut from a large number of people. Eligibility is being tightened for the main personal independence payment, the disability payment benefit, with handouts stopping unless people are unable to cope with basic daily tasks such as going to the toilet unaided. You will have to score a 4 on that. I don't know anything about this scoring system, so if you do know, please pick up the phone and give me a call. But if you scored a 3 on some of the things that they're asking you about, then you would fail. You would fail and you will have your PIP removed from you. The serious difficulty with at least one basic staff, washing yourself, I think feeding yourself without being reminded, being able to go to the toilet by yourself. So you have to fail those basic tests in order to get the PIP. That's what's happening. And the government is pledging to reintroduce reassessments for incapacity benefits. Everybody that's on a PIP now will be reassessed, and if you are assessed to be able to do any of those very basic things, then the chances are you could lose your PIP. But the government is pledging to say that there will be exceptions for those who will never work, and special rules for end-of-life care. So if you are the most extreme form of disabled, for want of a better expression, then you'll probably never have to be reassessed again. Because when I've spoken to people like some of my fantastic blind listeners who will say, you know, I keep having to go being reassessed, my eyesight's not coming back. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, I wish it would come back for you, but you know what I mean? It's quite a complicated detail of stuff here, but these are huge cuts, make no mistake about it. This will lead to about 900,000 who do not get PIP, worse off by £2,400. Anybody until the age of 22 will not be able to claim these disability benefits. If you have a mental disability, it's going to be treated differently to a physical disability. And so things are changing. Those claiming PIP are forecast to lose between £4,200 and £6,300 a year. So these are the cuts that are coming. Like I said, there's a lot of cuts and a lot of they've tried to make it. They have made it, of course, incredibly complicated. But the basic thing is it's going to be a crackdown, and will be those aged under 22 will no longer be able to access the health element of universal credit. Personal independent payments won't be frozen, but eligibility for PIP will now be narrowed. And like I said, even if you're on it, it's not from this point on. At your next reassessment, it'll be decided if you stay on it, and they're going to increase the numbers of people being reassessed. So I want to hear from you about this. I want to hear how you feel about this morning, and how, I don't know, I mean, are you worried about this? Are you scared? You know, there'll be lots of people who completely agree with this, that people under the age of 22 shouldn't be on these sort of benefits. You know, what the heck is going on? But what's it replaced with? And are we in danger of hurting the most vulnerable people in the country? Let's go to Sarah now, who's in Liverpool. Hi, Sarah. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Petrie.
Good morning.
After hearing the news, I am terrified and absolutely and utterly incandescent with rage.
Okay, explain.
Well, I know what it's like firsthand. Through no fault of my own, I got ill quite a few years ago. Not my fault, and I got messed around. I got neglected by the NHS in Liverpool, and I got battered about by the DWP. And I know exactly what it's like. And if anyone thinks it's easy, you must be joking. You have got to have every single bit of proof to get, even if it's incapacity or ESA. When it's PIP, even more so. You have to put every single letter in. You have to have, I mean, even with ESA, incapacity, you have to have a symptom diary. You have to have how your illness is from the minute you wake up of a morning till the minute you go to bed, and everything in between. And all your medication list. So if anyone thinks it's easy to fake that, you've got to be joking. I've seen what these people do especially with this government and previous governments, as soon as they get in, the one thing they like to do, we have to look as if we are tough. We have to please certain members of the press and Middle England. I know this. What we'll do, we'll give the most vulnerable in society a right kicking, and boy, do they do it. And it's always the way, always been the way. They always like to give us a good kicking, and it really, really makes me angry that they have the nerve to call this society civilised, when the measure of how civilised a society is how it's treated its most vulnerable members. And in that case, Britain is anything but.
But Sarah, look, I'm, you know me, I absolutely agree with you. I don't agree with this sort of blanket kicking of the poor and the vulnerable. We never have and never will. But I do agree, I do recognise that the benefit system is out of control. And it has to be sorted, because we cannot afford it. We cannot afford this number of people who are not available for work. It is spiralling well out of control. Already PIP is costing more than policing in this country. So we have to do something. And so cuts is the only thing to be done. So how do you square that circle? How do you say, look, you cannot and must not see benefits as a way of life? It is not. If you can work, you must work, because the rest of us are having to work to pay for you not to. But if you're vulnerable, we will always protect you. How do you do that?
Well, for a start, the one thing you have to do is to get, never mind, it's easy to say, we're looking at the figures, there's so many people. They're all on it, PIP. I don't know how anyone can manage to get PIP, because really and truly you should be safely dead in order to get it. But that's from my experience. And the thing is, it's not so much what is going on, it's why it's going on, and we've got to get to the root of that. Now, why have we got a problem with mental health at the moment, especially in the young? There's loads of reasons. I mean, it's different from when we were kids. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have social media. Also, we were not encouraged to be on our own and be stimulated all the time. That does not help. And this vision of perfection, that doesn't help. And kids going online and going into all these websites and finding out about God knows what, that doesn't help either. That does nothing for your mental health and your self-esteem. The other thing is as well, we've got to get to the roots of why that's going on. The other thing is as well, with a lot of mental illness, not saying with everybody, but why are people going down with it? There's always a reason why. Is it to do with the social media? Is it to do with young ones and anybody else taking drugs? I mean, cannabis is famous for sending people into schizophrenia and God knows what. Same with all the other drugs. What else is going on is someone caught an infection, which can cause a neuropsychological problem or psychiatric problem.
But there will always be people.
I know, but what I'm saying is, if you want to get to the reason why has everything gone skyrocketing? Get to the reason for that. Find out what it is. Deal with that, and then say, okay, now we've got that sorted out. We get people the treatment they need. That's another problem. The NHS isn't exactly brilliant on treatment, because I can tell you now, when I first got sick, I was beaten about the bush in Liverpool. I was left to rot. And I'll be perfectly honest, the hospitals in Liverpool did sweet zilch for me. When I finally got to see somebody who did blood tests, I found out 11 years later that I had no T cells, which is not a nice place to find out. And the only reason why I was still alive was down to the fact that I'd ended up in Manchester going for treatment, and the first thing they did was say, "Oh, quick, get you on antibiotics. You're on these for life. You're for the high jump." But the damage was done. It caused all kinds of weird and wonderful problems with every system in my body. Liverpool never bothered to never bothered to tell me what the results were, or send me to see immunologists or anybody else. They never bothered. Now, can you imagine how that felt? And can you imagine what damage that does to somebody physically? Never mind, psychologically, I don't bother with that. I just carry on. And I just said, you took my life away from me. You took away my career. You took away the chance of a family. You took away every single thing that you take for granted. And that goes for Keir Starmer as well, and his like. The thing is, it's always been the same with the poor, with anybody who's the most vulnerable. When they set up the welfare state, it was set up, as we all know, by Beveridge. Now, what most people don't realise is Beveridge was an arch eugenicist, and his attitude towards the sick and the disabled was quite simple. And he was quoted as this in the 1905 eugenics conference. He said, "Let them starve. Get rid of them." That is the boiled down version, but that was it. Let them starve, because he had no time for them. And Starmer is doing the exact same thing.
I don't think we can accuse Starmer of eugenics.
No, not eugenics.
That's probably going a bit far.
Social eugenics is not physical eugenics, but social eugenics is where the poor, literally, the poor and the sick and disabled get treated like dirt. If there's anyone going to get kicked, it's them. Take a look at the two-child policy for what they're calling child benefit these days. Take a look at the way we treat the sick and the disabled in this country. That's all social eugenics.
Yeah, I mean, look,
from here to kingdom come.
But I get it, but I am completely in agreement with you on it. But I also, the head and the heart in this is the head is saying we cannot be giving all these benefit monies out. It's not working. It's just not working. And what we have to do is separate the wheat from the chaff. Make sure we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater and all these other expressions that I could come up with. But at the end of the day, it's not sustainable, and the more people that go on benefits and see other people going on benefits, the more they think they can have a life on benefits, and there are fewer of us to pay for those benefits. So we've got to ensure that the vulnerable are protected, but those who are not vulnerable get off their backsides and get to work. Take a quick break, back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there. and a very good morning to you. It is Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock, and we're talking about these new rules, which are unnecessarily complicated, let me tell you, about the new welfare cuts that were just explained today by Liz Kendall, and they've really deliberately kind of made it really difficult. But anyway, for first-time claimants from 2028, they're projected to get $2,500 a year less under the new system. So they are going to be going down for everybody in the future, for the new claimants. For those who are already on PIP, nothing will change for you until you're reassessed. And then when you're reassessed, you have to be able to pass a range of very basic needs with at least a score of 4. And those needs include, but not exclusively, but they include washing yourself, being able to eat without being reminded, and using a toilet without being helped, right? So the very, very basic things to get the daily living element of PIP. And the mobility, I've got something that talks about the mobility element somewhere else, which I will find in a moment for you. But that's the daily living. So if you can manage to wash yourself, if you can manage to use the toilet, they've really now tightened up on that, and they're going to make it much more difficult for people to be able to get it in the first place. So, like I said, I've got a lot of paperwork in front of me. I'll find that in just a moment. Sharon has messaged those saying, sadly, those who are needing the help will be put through the mill again to prove their disabilities. I fear those who are not genuine will still be swinging the lead as they're skilled at being dishonest. It's a shame there are so many with zero conscience or morals who are putting pressure on the system, which is quite rightly there to support those in need. And Sharon, absolutely. That is it in a nutshell. It's always the rotten apple that spoils the barrel. I mean, honestly, if these people just had an ounce of conscience and an ounce of any sort of personal responsibility, we wouldn't be having this discussion, would we? We wouldn't be talking about this, because there would only be those who really needed it, not taking the mick. So, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, and they're spoiling it for everybody else. They're absolutely ruining it. Ruth has said, I would be mortified if I lost my PIP. I have little mobility, and these assessments are so difficult to attend, and they don't understand. Neither do they have any empathy. To get to the assessment is difficult. I'm 72, I've cancer 4 times, I've spinal problems, and now diverticulitis, and really bad reflux problems. So what am I supposed to do? I can't go out for work. Ruth, you're 72, you're not going to have to go out for work because you're already retired. So please don't worry about that. They are not going to make you work. These are mostly being aimed at younger people, and certainly those under the age of 22. So, Ruth, don't even worry about that at all. There's no way they're forcing a 72-year-old to go to work, so don't worry about that. Andrew in Salisbury says the whole welfare state needs protecting and investing in, but it's been totally abused and used as a population pacifier and political football. All Labour is going to do is mess PIP up like David Cameron did. So there you go. I'm, you know, my brother's on PIP. I don't know how this is going to affect him. But I suppose we'll see when he gets reassessed whether they think he can work. I don't know. David, who do I go to first, Chris or David? Chris. Okay, Chris. Good morning to you, Chris.
Good morning, Petra. How are you?
I'm very well indeed. How are you?
I'm all right. It's just some questions about the welfare. You know, these people who claims who's alcoholic and that, are they going to get assessments or something like that?
I guess so. Anybody who's on PIP, there will be.
Well, I'm state pension and I get PIP, right? I was assessed about 2 years ago.
Okay.
And I went through all the questions and I passed because I'm disabled, because I have to use a pusher if I want to go out. I have to use taxis to travel. With your money, I pay for taxis to go to appointments and to go to people to help us to go shopping and that. I'm really wanting to know.
So you're in the same position actually as my brother, actually, in similar need of that sort of support. The reassessments, they're talking about the daily living allowance. So is that what you're talking about? Is that your daily living allowance?
Yeah, I go when I have to go in the bath. I go one of them baths, one of the chairs that goes up and down into the bath.
And when you've been asked before about that, because I don't know anything about this scoring system, where would you say you scored on the need for that sort of assistance?
I got about 12.
Okay, so you're scoring at least a 4 on each individual one.
I had to get because I can't cook, so I get my food by friends or relations, or I get delivered for us.
Yeah, because cooking is one of the things, isn't it?
Yes, I can't cook.
But can you use this is another thing. Can you use a microwave? Because they're suggesting that.
No, because I'm frightened of using one.
Okay. So these are the questions that they'll be asking. So before, until now, I mean, my brother's not allowed to have a cooker in case he leaves it switched on.
I got a cooker then, but it's just I can't use it. I can't. I'm frightened because about 30 years ago, I fell a kip and I left the cooker on, and the cat walked us up, and I nearly had a house fire.
Right.
And I never touch a cooker because I get like flashbacks of it.
And you don't use a microwave or anything like that?
No, I get people. I get my food done. I got neighbours. If I phone them, I said, by the way.
And you don't even warm it up in any way?
No. I got relations, friends who come over, and I get a hot meal.
Well, I mean, look, I think you will score a minimum of 4 points in at least one activity to qualify for the daily living element. I don't think there's a question on that. You know, they're just going to tighten the rules, but they're not throwing the rules out, right? So the scoring 4, although they say is a high bar. One of them is needing prompting to prepare food, help with showering or washing, and dressing the lower body, and needing help to engage with others are all measures that score below a 4.
Because I can tell when you go to one of them assessments, you get a taxi and you give the receipt to the person on the desk. And after they says, "Oh, sit down, we're going to get you a taxi. Can you bank details?" And they give the bank details, and you get your money back.
Right.
And you can find out, you passed it. If they didn't take your bank details, you failed.
Oh, crikey, what a horrible way to find out.
You find because I went through it's like an MOT test. There's a proper doctor that they do something on your knee, CVNA, that they try and the old tricks is like drop money and see if you can pick it up, things like that. And if you're deaf, they try and talk you on your deaf ear, and it's.
But you're above pension age anyway, aren't you?
I'm 67.
I mean, look, honestly, again, like I said to Ruth,
no.
There's no way they're not going to make you work. Right. It might be that they try to reduce your daily living allowance because you're able to dress yourself or you're able to, but I doubt it. So I really wouldn't worry at this stage, okay?
Because I'll tell you what, they could brought back. I know many moons ago that disabled factories for
Oh, the Remploy. They were
like
brilliant. And they made money. They were profitable. It's just crazy they got rid of those.
In 1995, I had operation on my head, right? And what happened to get back to work, that sent us to that place to get into work. And then suddenly in 2000, I think it's 2013, they closed them down. And it was the Conservative closed them all down.
Big mistake that was.
I think it was 2013 when
I think you're right, actually. I'm trying to remember in the back of my mind. But it was a big mistake. I thought the Remploy factories, they were profitable, they did well, they kept people in work, they made people happy, people felt good about it. It never made any sense to me. It was always, what are they producing in those factories that some Tory wants to produce themselves and make money out of? That's what I always thought. I thought it was a shame. It was a real shame. Chris, great to talk to you. Thank you so much for the call. I've got to go to a break, but David, I will be with you in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
It is Talk, and it's Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock, but it's time now to find out how you could be in with a chance. It's an amazing prize of winning Oasis tickets. So if you weren't able to buy them, you might just be able to win Oasis tickets at Wembley this summer.
How do you fancy winning tickets to the hottest gig of the century? Here at Talk, we're giving you the chance to bag yourself a pair of tickets to Oasis at Wembley this summer. Plus, we're giving away a whopping 10 grand and putting you up for the weekend in a London hotel. All you need to do is text the word prize to 83338 and you're in the draw. Alternatively, you can enter by post. Once again, all you need to do is text the word prize to 83338 or you can enter by post. Good luck.
18 plus UK excluding Northern Ireland. Enter by text for £2 plus one standard network charge by 11 p.m. on the 7th of April 2025. Or post your name and number to Oasis Competition, PO Box 3190. Colchester CO2 8GP to arrive by 5 p.m. on the 10th of April 2025. Full terms and conditions at talksport.com.
This is a News Broadcasting Network promotion.
Incredible. So if you're one of those people queuing and waiting to get that ticket, or those tickets, you could win them. And 10 grand. And a hotel. That's not bad, is it? So there you go. Now, though, we're talking about the other side of the world now. Really, for us, is having all that money and going to see Oasis. The other side of the coin is people who are on PIP. 1 in 10 people of working age are claiming sickness or disability benefit, and 2.8 million people are out of work because of long-term sickness. So this is not sustainable, right? I think we all agree that it's not sustainable. It cannot go on. We cannot have this level, these numbers of people who are on these benefits. We cannot afford it. I was at West Streeting saying the other day, 1,000 people a day signing on to PIP. Just think of that, 1,000 people a day. It is not sustainable. So Liz Kendall, Work and Pension Secretary, has come out with a new set of rules, and they're not good, really, for people, but disability and sickness benefit will be reduced. So even the actual cost of it, if you're a new signee, you will get a lower level. Plus, if you're already on PIP, they want to increase the number of reassessments that go on. First-time claimants from 2028 are projected to get $2,500 a year less under the new system. 4.5 million families on the Universal Credit core payment would be $150 a year better off, though, because they're saying what they want is people on Universal Credit not to try and get the higher claim of PIP. So the new rules imply those who currently get Universal Credit sickness top-up will lose it. This will lead to about 900,000 people who do not get PIP worse off by $2,400 a year. So if you get the sickness top-up on Universal Credit, it will go by 28-29. And I presume then you would have to apply for PIP if you wanted the extra payment. Those claiming PIP are forecast to lose between $4,200 and $6,300. This is according to the Resolution Foundation. They're saying that this is they're restricting entitlement to the PIP payments, with 7 in 10 PIP claimants living in families in the poorest half of the income distribution. These losses will be heavily concentrated amongst lower income households. There'll be an increase in basic out-of-work support, but not very large. At the same time, the health-related benefit system will be tightened, cut, and entitlement will no longer depend on whether you can work or not. I don't understand quite what that means. The hope is more employment and fewer people in the disability and incapacity benefit system. The risk is that precisely the individuals receiving health-related benefits are the least responsive to financial incentives to work, and perhaps the most in need of extra financial support. Young people and those who fall ill in the future will lose support from a huge scaling back of incapacity benefits. So that's just a broad overview. Like I said, I've got loads of bits of paper here. There's so much information. You will now have to score a minimum of 4 points on at least 3 of these elements. They include preparing food, taking nutrition, managing therapy or monitoring your health condition, washing and bathing, managing toilet needs and incontinence, dressing and undressing, communicating verbally, reading and understanding signs, symbols and words, and engaging with others face to face, and making budget decisions. So they're putting the bar higher on those things, and you'll have to prove that you are in a position where you cannot cope with any of those. That's the daily living allowance element of PIP. People with the most severe lifelong illnesses and disabilities, those who have no prospect of improvement and will never be able to work, will no longer have to face regular assessments to get their disability benefits. They will also have their incomes protected. And Debbie, I've read your message, and I hope that answers your question, because Debbie has written in and says that her 23-year-old son gets PIP, and he has significant learning difficulties, very complex needs, and has been assessed that he really can't work and his condition won't get better. If that is found to be true, Debbie, he will no longer have to go through these appalling assessments that you say are so incredibly stressful. Face-to-face disability benefit assessments will be increased. Currently, only 7% of PIP assessments and work capability assessments are carried out face-to-face, but the government will be increasing those, and they'll be using the money from those people who don't have to any longer go through these assessments to pay for those who they believe do need to be regularly assessed. So that's just the bones of it, really. Let's talk to David now, just before the break. David, good morning to you.
Is that you, madam?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm not too bad, Princess. You're looking radiant as ever.
Well, that's very kind. You need those cataracts sorted.
Oh, what it is I'm ex-forces.
Mm-hmm.
And you know when you see things and you think, yeah, do I? But I've got arthritis in both hands, and going to the toilet is a bit embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
I have a disabled kids who've got blood and stuff, but it's not as easy as people think, and it's the money you get. Yeah, I get £749 on PIP
a month.
Yes, madam. Yeah.
So it's about £8,000 a year, something like that, a bit more.
Yeah, well, I've only been on certain benefits since 2018. I've been in 4 mental hospitals, a prolific self-harbour. I did gentlemen before. I can't have sharp knives in the house, but it's the old job. It's Miss Petrie. They don't. That's the problem. I've been in Worcester for 3 years. I'm still waiting for the consult.
Yeah. I mean, that is the problem, isn't it? That it's almost, how dare they not put everything in place before doing this. This is just a cheap shot. This is just because they need the money. This is nothing to do with reform. This is because they want your money.
I met a guy once, he's not even from the UK, and I've got nothing against anybody, but they've got to be in the UK for 3 days every 6 months. It's how much money do we actually give to people before Brexit they're still on certain benefits.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I absolutely hear you. Look, I really hope, David, that you know, they're not. I hope a lot of people are going to be impacted by this. They really are, genuinely, and there will be people who suffer from this, and that's what breaks my heart, is that genuine people will suffer.
I was trying to interrupt you now. I probably will myself, but it's rather than a blanket stop, give a blanket 6 or 3 months. I went from the lower rate in March to the higher rate because the conditions are not great.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't know what you want me to do.
I know, and the thing is that stress is so ultimately so bad for your health. I mean, the stress that you people must be going through at the moment, honestly, I just think it's just wicked. I think it's awful. But on the other hand, that's heart and head for me, because my head is saying that these cuts, some cuts do have to happen, and people have to be encouraged to go for work. But then there are millions of you who can't, and you need protecting, and that's where my heart comes into it. David, I genuinely, sincerely hope that you'll be left alone with these cuts. I really do. I've got to take another break, haven't I? Yes, I thought so. And I'll be back in a sec.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a very good morning to you. It's Petrie here with you for the next, oh gosh, it's only 6 minutes, so I better get a move on. It's been a really busy programme tonight and this morning. Tristan is in Bedford. Good morning, Tristan. Oh, I've got the wrong fader up, that's why. Hello, good morning, Tristan.
Hi, how are you?
I'm all right, falling apart at the seams, but otherwise I'm okay. How are you this morning?
Yeah, not too bad. I feel a lot of everything you said, you sort of exhausted the subject. You've gone through every single which way. I mean, as I was saying to your researcher, I mean, you know, how I think what needs to happen with the situation with Pip is I think that the assessors are going to, you know, they're just going to make their own decisions to try to cut people's funding. And I think if they go through doctors' letters and things like that, then they've got the facts there in front of them. I also think the other thing is a lot of the young people that are going on to PIP, they're sort of following like lemmings, to be honest. It seems like, oh, well, you got it, so I'll go for it. And
listen, I agree. I do genuinely agree with that. I was watching a report today about young people, and frankly, the excuses that they were using were pretty slim. They were pretty weak. And I just thought, well, hang on a minute. I'm sure when I was your age, I had days where I felt like that, or even weeks where I felt like that. And did I want to work for a living? Not particularly, but I knew I had no choice. And so, but then I didn't come from a family that ever used benefits. And I think if you...
same as me.
Yeah, so if you come from a family that use benefits, not that there's anything wrong with that, but you tend to find it's generational. You tend to find that generations follow the same path. And I think you're right with young people. I mean, there was a trend a few months ago on TikTok and social media and things where young people going, oh, I've got my PIP, I've got my, you know, and I'm going to the pub, ha, 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 you're going to work. So, you know, people are taking the mick, but my fear is always that separation of heart and head. You know, that my heart's telling me I don't want anyone to suffer, and my head's telling me there are people taking the mick.
So how do you eliminate that? The only way to eliminate that, as I said, is, you know, if you've got doctors' letters and everything like that, they can actually reference it. Like, for example, I suffer from Crohn's, I've got loads of letters and all sorts, but I still have to work full time. I can't, you know, I earn too much money to get PIP, and I look after myself. Had I not been able to look after myself with having Crohn's disease, anyone knows how debilitating Crohn's disease can be. You know, I probably would be able to get it. But the thing is whenever I've had issues with my Crohn's, I'm determined to get myself well. When I've had district nurses, when I've had issues, I don't want them round. I'm like, I don't want you coming round because I don't feel I've got too much pride.
I mean, you have the same attitude, I think, as I do with my my condition, which is MS. In that I don't want any of that. I don't. You know, I do everything the doctor tells me, but in my heart, I don't have it. Right, so I just want to get on with my life, and knowing that at any point my condition could change and I might well be in a position where I need benefits, or I might well be in that position where I'm in a wheelchair. We know with these diseases they can take a real turn very, very quickly, and it's the same with your Crohn's, right? But you know, there are I don't know why it is, but we need to make sure that everybody that's vulnerable is protected and everybody that isn't is working. And I just don't know how you do that without hurting the very people we're trying to protect.
So you think, though, that if there was references, as I said, from doctors and things like that, then they'll be able to actually see if the condition is something that is debilitating to someone to affect them working and affect them doing every day?
I mean, look, the thing that really concerns me, and it always has with these assessments that are done, that they're not done by qualified people. They're done usually by private companies who, for everybody they reject. If you remember the lot, that was a French company. I can't remember what they were called, but anyway, it was a French company who used to do it, and they were sacked eventually because they were told that for everybody they rejected, they got paid. So they were just rejecting people, and that is the fear. Who is doing the assessments? If they are fully medically trained people who, if they've got any doubt, refer it up the chain to a doctor or a surgeon or a specialist, fine. I don't have a problem with that assessment. But if it's done by people that have got a very low level medical experience and they are rewarded or incentivized to reject people, then that is not acceptable.
It isn't, and I hate to say it, but like everything, someone's going to have an agenda, and if they come in and say, if you reject this person or you cut this funding, then you're going to benefit out of it.
Yeah, if it's performance related, right? If they say this is performance related, and we all know what performance related means, it means chucking people off benefits that they might well need in order to traffic wardens, right? The more people they ticket, the more money they get. So there's the incentive in that, and that's what's got to be removed, is the incentive to take something away from somebody who needs it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the scary situation with this. But as you said before, we are hitting a limit. If people are doing this 1,000 people a day, then obviously they're going to be wanting to cut this as soon as they possibly can.
Of course, I mean 1,000 people a day, and you're not telling me they all need it, right? So we know that people are swinging the lead, but we've got to make sure that those bludgers and those skivers don't ruin it for people who genuinely need it. And I don't